and welcome to episode 186 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our second batch of games from issue 75 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were not glamoured at all by Gem X. Felt extremely underwhelmed in Extreme, and took a proper brown out in Hero Quest. This week, we conclude our look at the games in July 1991, along with what was lighting up our cinema screens that month. Graham, are we finishing the month with a rousing cheer or a damp murmur under tattered sheets?
The last part of July 1991. The summer days are still bright and everyone is talking about something called a T-1000. So in the month that also saw actor Paul Rubens, aka Pee-wee Herman, get arrested for exposing himself at an adult movie theatre in Sarasota, Florida, we gather our knapsacks, leather pouches and rulebooks and head to the merry old inn to meet with our misfit band of adventurers as we once again head out on a quest to see what happened to Carl in the Death Knights of Krynn, then pop across to another orthographic football stadium, this time to take on the challenge of a World Cup, not the World Cup. You've got to remember that. In World Championship Soccer. It is mad what some folk will do in a cinema. Once I was late to the film and I edged to my seat in a fully darkened cinema, slipped and dumped a whole load of Pepsi and a large popcorn over some woman's head in the front row. I wasn't popular for that, but in my defence, I was really, really drunk. Anyway, while I chuckle at how much ice went down that person's top, which was a lot, we get ready for some lepus foo and head for a slow walk through rural Lincolnshire as we punch roided badgers in the mouth in Ninja Rabbits, before finally getting our eyes and ears prepared for the incoming visual and aural feast and then punching a bunch of bats while out horse riding in the pretty but dull Wrath of the Demon. So July 1991 is done, and what have we learned? We've had big games, small games, puzzle games, action games, but only one of those games featured the ability to dropkick a man badger. So I guess that's something. I don't know is the answer to that. I don't know the answer. It's a little bit. It's an odd ending with some really amazing graphics, and that's kind of all they thought about. And then we've got something else that is just so expansive, it's like crazy. So there's just, I don't know, it's
an odd one.
It's an odd one. It is a little bit odd. There's some good stuff. There's some not so good stuff. There's some frustrating stuff. It's a tale of many things.
It is, but it's a bit of a 4 games this week, crapverts, charts, what's coming up, all that kind of shenanigans going on. So it's a full jam-packed. There's only 4 games. There's some big games this week. A couple of very big games, isn't there? A couple of very big ones.
There is a couple of
very big ones. So if you want to, we'll get this out of the way at the beginning. If you want to support us, you can do that. We have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Zap to the Past. And for well under the price of a pint of beer these days, and probably the price of a sandwich. Probably less than the price of a sandwich, considering the price of a sandwich. I paid for a sandwich when I was coming back from on the train the other day. Less than the price of a sandwich. So you can support us financially, and that's great. Keeps us ticking along as we endeavour to get through the last, what we got, 16 magazines left.
It's crazy.
16 issues. I think that's about it. It's only about 16, 91, 92, I don't know. So as we keep going, if you feel free, come and join us, get access to the episodes early, ad-free, get on our Discord and things like that. So come and join us. Oh, there's a Ko-fi as well, ko-fi/Zap to the Past. It's all good. And obviously, come and chat on the social medias and things like that, because it's always very nice. I don't know. It's a big episode. So should we just get into the games? Should we just do it? Because we've got quite a lot to talk about, I think, in respect to some of these games. So should we get to the first one? Unless there's anything you want to talk about?
No, let's get to it because we need to get to it.
Let's get to it then. Let's get to our very first game this week. And Graham, it's over to you for this one. This is one that wouldn't normally be something in our remit, but it's escaped its confines. It's in the wider area of the magazine, so it must be looked at. This is the Death Knights of Krynn.
Yeah, look out, they're loose. Death Knights of Krynn. Is it Krynn or Kryn? I don't know.
Krynn. It's Krynn.
Yeah, I imagine it's Krynn. This was $24.99 for this Commodore 64. 84% it scored in Zap. Quite a biggie thing. This came out on the Amiga MS-DOS as well, so it was sort of one of those things. And this is created by Strategic Stimulations. That sounds very dodgy, doesn't it?
After
This is
Gem X,
created by Strategic Simulations Incorporated. This is who published it. And obviously they have got a history of doing loads of these kind of things. I mean, if you take one look at their snapshot, I mean, goodness me, it's just a sea of these kind of strategic RPG type games. Loads of them. In fact, more in this series, including some we'll talk about as well. But there's a whole bunch. And they all kind of follow a kind of a thing. So this was designed by Ken Humphries. The coding here was by Jim Jennings. He did Curse of the Azure Bonds and the Champions of Krynn, which is the game that I think is before this one.
Yeah.
And then you've also got Paul Murray. He did Pools of Radiance and then a whole bunch of other strategic simulation products. Graphics here are by the humorously named, and I'm pretty sure these are characters from the actual game more than the actual. So we've got Cyrus Lum, Daniel Colon Jr., Fred Butts, Laura Bowen, Maureen Starkey, Michael Provenza, and the musician is Dave Govett, and the box art was Keith Parkinson. All right, there you go. Quite the team. They've got a history of making these kind of majorly massive RPG strategic strategy type Dungeons & Dragons. This is copyright TSR, which tells you that it is in fact the home of Dungeons & Dragons. And in this instance, actually, it's Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, isn't it?
It is Advanced D&D, yeah, AD&D.
So Death Knights of Krynn is a classic role-playing game, obviously released for the old C64 and other platforms. It's the second installment in the Gold Box Dragonlance trilogy, developed by Strategic Simulations, set in the Dungeons & Dragons or Advanced Dungeons & Dragons universe. The story of the Death Knights of Krynn picks up shortly after the events of Champions of Krynn. In that, players fought alongside the forces of good against the remnants of the dragon armies following the War of the Lance. The heroes uncovered a sinister plan involving draconians, evil clerics, and dark sorcery, as minions of the goddess Takhisis attempted to rekindle war and chaos in Ansalon. That sounds like some kind of ointment, like a... You need some Ansalon for that. Eventually, the party confronted and defeated the dark cleric Maitani, thwarting his ambitions and temporarily restoring peace to the region. However, in the Death Knights of Krynn, the peace proves to be short-lived. After a celebration of Mirtani's defeat, the bodies of fallen heroes, included the respected Sir Carl, not Carl, are stolen from their resting place. Soon, rumours spread of the dead returning to unlife. The terrifying truth becomes clear. Lord Soth, the infamous Death Knight of Dargard Keep, has returned and is behind these desecrations. Once a noble Solamnic knight, Soth fell to evil and now serves as a champion of undeath and despair. Undeath, that's the thing, isn't it? The player's party, either continuing characters from the first game or newly rolled heroes, sets out to investigate these disturbances. Their quest takes them across the troubled lands of Taladas and Salamnia,
I think it is.
Solamnia, yeah. Through haunted fortresses, desolate ruins, and towns plagued by the undead. Along the way, they encounter tortured souls, battle horrific creatures raised from the dead, and seek out ancient artifacts and forgotten wisdom that might help them resist the tide of darkness. This narrative is steeped in gothic horror, according to this blurb, with a recurring theme of corrupted honor. Lord Soth uses the memories and bodies of once noble warriors to twist their legacy into a mockery, and much of the party's quest revolves around putting these tormented spirits to rest. Eventually, the heroes confront Lord Soth in a climactic battle. They must not only defeat his undead army, but also face the emotional and moral weight of their journey, resisting fear, despair, and the pull of darkness that has claimed so many before. Quite heavy, isn't it? That really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Now, there's two weighty tomes that come with this, by the way. So you get the Adventure Journal, which is a fun-packed 58-page book that accompanies this. And that's got a little bit of extra detail about the story here. It's not so much to go through, but it just says what has gone before. And then this just gives you a little bit of in-between summary. And I think it's important for a game like this. 1 year ago, the forces of evil were united under the powerful Aurak Draconian Matani, who once again uncovered the method of corrupting dragon eggs into Draconians. See, they didn't have that bit in the other one, did they? Aided by his Death Knight ally, Sir Lebaum, he was able to seize control of central Krynn and to field a dangerous army of Draconians and undead. They write these words down. They weren't prepared for anyone to read them. Nightmare. As the Solamnic forces converged upon the region, a small band of stalwart heroes uncovered Mirtani's secret plan to suddenly generate a huge army and ambush the Solamnic forces. Mirtani hoped to slay key leaders in one swift action and then crush the remaining disorganized resistance. Magic rituals discovered in a stolen tome would allow him to turn stolen dragon eggs into Draconians en masse. not mass egg to dragon. That doesn't sound good, does it? Eggs were well hidden, and Salamnic scouts had missed them after the War of the Lance. A small band of heroes were able to slip into Mitanni's stronghold in Krynn and slay this foul minion of the evil goddess Tachesis before the magic could be used. Without the draconian force, the Knights of Salamnia were able to rout the evil army and bring peace to the region again. But you are cordially invited to attend the first anniversary of the victory of the Battle of Krynn. Those in attendance will include the survivors of the battle and those granted the special Salamnic Order of the Champions of Krynn. Your teeth back in for that one. There will be both a celebration of the great victory and a commendation of those who fell achieving it. Commendation. They died, but here's a certificate. Special memorial will be...
A bronze certificate.
A bronze certificate. A special memorial will be held for the former commander of the Gargath outpost, Sir Carl, not Carl again, who was slain defending the oath and the measure. This will be held at the parade grounds outside of the Gargath outpost. Right, so there's a lot funny.
Listening to you read this sort of thing, because obviously I'm very familiar with the Dragonlance books and everything, and hearing you say the words is really strange.
I can imagine it is. So this is a big old game, isn't it? Really, this. I imagine because this, I have to say, was really my first experience with any of these games on the C64 or otherwise. So I've never really played these kind of games. Certainly never played any of these. And I never had this. And I'll tell you why, because it was never pirated. One, because it was unprotected. So what's the point? Because when you bought it, you could make backups of it if you wanted. So I suppose it was the ultimate way of protecting it from pirates, is that you don't need to actually crack it. Yeah. And secondly, I think this must have come on several discs. I played the cartridge sort of Easy Flash version of this that's out there, which does greatly expedite proceedings, I imagine, although it's still pretty nippy to load from what I've read. But it does come on, I think, 3 or 2 full discs, maybe even 3. And then you need a spare disc for all of your saves and all of that kind of thing. An important note here, by the way, is that if you have played the previous games, and why wouldn't you have, you've come to this point, really, you can save your party of characters and you can reload them in the subsequent game. So you can carry on with the same party that you've used in the previous game, which is quite a nice touch. And I imagine it's probably something that's very familiar to the RPGs of this time. But that is also something that has now come to be the standard in these. And I'm drawn to things like Mass Effect, where all of those characters that you play, they build up a profile, they build up a skill set. And in this instance, of course, with it being a Dungeons and Dragons type game, they're going to build up that kind of the strength and all the various stats that make up their character sheet. And then, of course, as you progress through the adventure, you build up more experience and you build up more weapons. And that's great that you can carry on those sort of characters, because that is kind of the fundamental basis of Dungeons and Dragons, really. And so it's in keeping with that. But it's nice to see that that's kind of a tradition that goes right back to the earliest versions of this. And it's something that persists all the way through to the current type of games that are like this, although the modern ones are obviously a lot more involved than this one perhaps was.
Yeah.
So when you first start this, you'll get a nice little intro sequence or screen, I suppose. It's okay for what it is. I think if you're into this, you're going to know what you to expect. So you can start this you've got a choice where you can play a demo or you can play the actual game. And it's one of those things where it's a toggle switch, which is a bit annoying because it doesn't illuminate in the way you'd think. So after watching the demo, which I didn't exactly plan to do, I got a flavour for what the game was going to be like, but I kind of knew what it was going to be like anyway. So your first port of call or anything like this, you've got to get to you'll create characters. So you can actually load your saved game characters. You can create new characters, or you can add characters to the party. And this is very much in the tradition of the sort of RPG type games of this type. So you can go through a whole series. Now, what is quite nice about this is that when you create the characters, you not only change their hair color and their armor and the kind of characters, you choose what kind of character it is from the array of characters that you can choose from. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I've got the list somewhere here of the ones that you can choose from. There's quite a bunch. Let me see if I can find them. So when you pick in the race, so you can pick your race, you can pick the gender, you can pick the class, you can pick the deity, you can pick the alignment. It's Dungeons and Dragons, so it's like it's a great big list of statistics that you can pick. But this does actually have an effect throughout the entire game on that character, how that character interacts with the other characters, and how it plays in the game. And true to the nature of a Dungeons and Dragons game is that as you play this, if you do make decisions or you do act in ways that are not necessarily in keeping with the tradition of your character, so if it's not in his alignment, or their alignment, should I say, then you're going to get the necessarily bad things are going to happen, and the outcome of things isn't necessarily how you'd want it to be. Now, this game is principally a kind of walk and battle type game, really. I found myself doing a lot of that in this, and looking at sort of various map screens and interacting with some NPCs in the tradition of this. But I didn't get that crazy far into it, really, to sort of go really deep into the game. So once you've created a character and you've given a name and you've chosen whether you want it to be a high elf or a human or a cleric or all the various parameters, you can then create a series of characters and you can save them to the disk. And then you can pick and choose from those characters to add to the party that you want to take on the adventure, or you can preload existing characters, which is what I did, because I went through and created some characters, realized that when it went to the stat screen, which is where you get to save it, and it actually does all of the rolls for you, because this is based on the Dungeons & Dragons game, obviously, so it's probably rolled a D20 and then a D whatever, and all the Ds were rolled. And I get my character sheet. So it's basically creating the character sheet that you would normally go through with Dungeons & Dragons, and then you get sort of... So I had a character called King Egg. What else was I going to call him? He was a male. He was neutral. He was a paladin cleric, which was good, but he had really crap statistics. Really crap. He was weak. He was a weak egg. And so I ended up, I thought, I'm not going to take him into this party. He is not invited to the party. His damage was really low. It was just rubbish. I was like, that's not the kind of characters I want. So I actually took the opportunity to load in one of the pre-existing characters and parties. So I ended up with Sir Drayden, Lilith, Tannar, Flavis, Celeste, and Nigel, which was a bit weird. I was expecting it to be a bit of a fanciful name, but I ended up with Nigel. I don't know why.
Maybe it's Nigel.
Nigel, yeah, like it was Rogar and the other one, Roger. Then you'll get some, and the game UI is split into kind of, there's a square sort of framing on everything. But inside of that, when it's text and stats and when it's those kind of things, it's very much text on a screen and it's readable. It's nothing too bad. And it's just very much in the tradition of Dungeons and Dragons. So you're going to see your hit points. You're going to see, the kind of the various different spells. And if you've got those things, it's your character profiles and you can edit them and change them and do all of those things if you want. Once you've actually begun the adventure, so you'll go through all of that and then begin adventure, then you'll actually get the second kind of screen that you're going to see in this, which is where you'll get the text at the sort of bottom panel. The top panel is kind of a graphic view where you'll see images, map views, or things like that. And then underneath that is the text of the story, and that's going to sort of roll onto the screen. You'll read that, and then you can press the return or a button to continue, and it'll scroll. And so that's where the story is unveiled to you as you go through and the different people that you meet. Then there's another screen on top of that one, which is actually on the left-hand side. If you encounter an NPC or a character, on the left-hand side, you'll see an image of that character. On the right, you'll see the name of your party and the various different aspects of that. And then there'll be some dialogue and some continuation of the story. So those are the kind of mainstays, apart from the battle screen and the sort of movement screen, which I'll come to after this. But those are the kind of mainstays. So you'll have the big map view and the text at the bottom, character view, dialogue at the bottom, and extra stuff. And that's the way the story is going to unfold to you. Outside of that, when you get to the sort of movement view, then it becomes like you've got I guess it's a view. On the left-hand side, you've got a view of all the character players and the enemies and the trees and the horses and everything else that's in that particular part of the world. On the right-hand side, you can then, you'll get details of the things that are in there. You can then move your character around by utilizing, when it's their turn to move, there's a menu will appear as text across the bottom display. And there you'll get the options for move, view, aim, use, cast, turn, and all of those kind of things. And obviously the number of moves you have and all of those kind of things, the hit points you have, that's all decided by your character sheet and by the setup of that. Every one of your characters has got different statistics. They can move in different ways. They have different abilities. And the idea, of course, is that you then will work your way through the map screen, go to different locations, meet NPCs, go on mini adventures, talk to people who give you clues, get into battles and fights on the screen, of which I seem to get involved in loads of those in this. Way more than I sort of expected it from an early on, and with really high-level characters as well, which seemed really odd. Which I don't know if that's a thing of these games or not, because I've never played any of them before. But I found myself fighting some really high-level characters none of my team were particularly high-level, which doesn't always fare well when you're in Dungeons and Dragons territory. It has to be said.
No, it doesn't. No.
So it's a massive, like I said, it's a massive AD&D game series, and that's kind of how most of the game appeared to me. And so I didn't get so far into it that I saw a variation of any of those screens, but there was a really good quality, well-written story and adventure in here that was in very short order unfurling before me. And then I felt like I had loads of characters. I mean, there was only 5 or 6 people in my party, 6, but it felt like I had loads more characters in my display than that I could move around. So once I'd got past the first part, got told a little bit of the story, opted to move somewhere. I was in the battle screen, and then I was moving my players into the different locations. And you've obviously it's Dungeons and Dragons, so you can move and do stuff. So you can move, you can leave your people on guard, or you can get them to sort of just wait, or you can do various things. And it works like a proper Dungeons and Dragons type party. So when you're working in a team of Dungeons and Dragons players in a real game, you talk to each other and say, "No, right, well, what's the strategy going to be? I'm going to go forward, and I'll stand there. I'll stand guard. You work as a team on this adventure. Here, you're going to encounter a lot of enemies that will attack you immediately. I got attacked by a horse, which was random. But anyway, I got attacked by things. I fought back, and I seemed to be getting into a lot of battles. After that, I came across an NPC, and I was able to find a place where you could buy more weapons. And to say that there's a lot more to this game would be an understatement. Now, importantly, remember that I said at the beginning of this, there's a 58-page adventure journal that comes along with this, which teaches you all about what your ability scores are, what all the different player races, all the classes, how they're going to work together, tips on how to prepare before you even begin the adventure so you can get extra weapons and build up your weaponry and things like that. There's tells you how to utilize and look at the combat map, but also roll for initiative. This is a complicated game based around the fundamentals of Dungeons and Dragons, which is not a lightweight thing to be getting involved with at this level. So, Firstly, I think that sets a precedent for this in that you if you're into this, if you bought this, you're into this, which means you're going to know a lot of these rules and these transitions and things like that. What I would say is I don't think this is really a game for a novice of this. You need to have played the previous games and you need to know your way around Dungeons and Dragons to be able to really get much out of this. Now, I know a little bit about it, but it's been many, many years since I rolled a D20 for anything. So, although weirdly, I do own one. It's random, but I always seem to find a D20 in the bottom of a drawer. It's like if I'm going through like the kitchen drawer or a man drawer, I'm thinking, what? I'm looking for something completely random. I end up pulling out a D20. I'm like, is this following me around? I don't know. Should I roll it and see? I don't know what's going to happen.
You should roll it and just check.
Never roll a D20. And then, of course, the other side of this is the rule book. Now, it wouldn't be a Dungeons and Dragons game if it didn't have lots of rules. And the rules really govern not so much what you do, but how the universe is going to work around you. And those are basic Dungeons and Dragons type rules. So, like I said, you can talk to non-player characters, but you have to keep and think about your alignment and acting like the kind of person that you are. And that works in this game as well. So when you have encounters and when you meet other civilization, even in combat, you can't do things that are not in keeping with the kind of person and the characters that you've picked and chosen and that you're playing with. And that's quite good. And I wonder if this is really geared for people that have more than one person, because I can imagine one person playing this and operating 5 characters, but I can also see maybe a few people, Dungeons and Dragons fans and fans of this would get around and maybe they take a character each. And I don't know, maybe it can act as a kind of a cooperative Commodore 64 version of the actual Dungeons and Dragons, where you've got the Dungeon Master being taken over by the computer. I can see how that would work, which is why I think you get that rule book, because then you can sort of talk about the rules and how this is going to work and everything else. Of course, you can do all the things you can do in Dungeons and Dragons here, which means you're accumulating treasure, but you're also accumulating experience. You can encamp and do magic and all of those things, cast spells if you've got those characters. All of that stuff applies here, all of it. This is a massive AD&D game, massive, in a series of massive AD&D games, right? You know, strategic RPGs like this, huge and big and audacious, and perhaps this is one of the biggest and audacious. This is the last one they did on the C64. So I imagine this is kind of their big, farewell, hurrah. And I've literally no experience with this on the whole, or any of these types of games. Now, and I extend this to modern gaming, because I've never really got into any of these. Now, I'm not a Skyrim person. I'm not a, whatever it was, the other one that came out that looked like Skyrim. I don't really into any of them, nor have I ever really been into RPG games. In fact, I think the one of the first games I got with an Xbox 360 was a Japanese RPG game I can't remember what it was called, which went in my Xbox once in its entire life, and never was it ever played again. So it was like, no, I can't tell you what it was called. I remember it having really bad voice acting. So what's my experience of this is purely based on what I encountered when I played this and my understanding of the world of Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm not even well read on the Death Knights of Krynn either, on any of that. I know this is firmly you and your zone. So I have no experience with it. I never owned any of these, never played any of these, and they never came across my transom, because even as a part of a cracking group, nobody was trading these. Nobody. No, there's niche, and there's ways to slap your contacts in the face when he's like, here's the latest demos and here's the Death Knights of Krynn. They're like, oh, really? Can't have that. But you know what? I didn't ever own it, didn't play this particular one, which is surprising when I thought about it. As I was thinking about it today, and I thought, this is odd, because I was quite into this, the whole world of this stuff. Now, I was into Dungeons & Dragons, into tabletop games, into painting miniatures, still am into some extent. I've still got my original copy of my Dungeon Dragon rulebook. I've still got the original one. So, and it's what I bought from the one and only model shop that was open in Grimsby at the time, way back then. It's still got that. Was it Hewins, I think it was?
Hewins, yeah.
So all I can do is align my experience of this to what I know. And I imagine this is pretty much aligned to the other prior games in the genre of this. You need to, like I said, gather your party of adventurers, move around, take actions, shuffle around. It's a big adventure and there's a lot to do. The controls I thought were quite simple in their implementation. They're very simple keyboard and basic controls and commands and joystick if you want to move it around that way. You're just selecting options, which is kind of nice. Doesn't overcomplicate things. No stupid icon-driven UIs that make no sense. Just words, simple words. Yep. Like I said, you start with that ability to craft characters, save them into any party, or you can reload. So that's all pretty good. Lots of controls. I liked that building of the characters part in this because you could change the little hairstyles and everything. It's quite unique to be able to do that. I thought it was cool. In keeping with the tradition of these things, like I said, the UI is mostly text-based, but splits into those different window views, which I thought was quite nice. It worked for me. It isn't graphically amazing. I'll give it, it's not going to be, but there's a lot of game in here. And some of the graphics that turn up in the bigger screens are pretty good. The guy on the dragon, some of the scenery and the map is pretty good as well. So there is some nicely drawn graphics. There's a lot of them too. When you're attacking enemies, again, you can choose. You have to either aim or depending on what weapon you've got, and depending on all the other factors, the kind of armor, the look of the rolls that you have and anything else would very much depend on how long you last against some of the skeletons and I guess skeleton horses. I don't know what they were.
Nightmares.
Either way,
they're nightmares.
Yeah, gave me nightmares because I didn't last long against a horse, it seemed. But winning these battles obviously factors into your experience points. And as you gradually play, your experience and your reputation in the world starts to get ahead of you. So when you go to places, people will heard of you because of the things you've done, which is really, really cool. So let me be candid. These kind of games are not my forte. Even now, I've never really gotten to them. And like I said, from what I could see and understand, this is a very worthy sequel in the series of games I knew nothing about and had no interest in. But apparently it's very good, but not as good as the previous one. Like I said, graphics aren't great, but they're very in keeping with the kind of games and all the other games that look like this in this sort of sequence. And there's a whole lot of stuff to get through. I mean, I saw one long play on this, clocking in at over 7.5 hours on the C64.
That's chunky.
Which is pretty good when you think about it. And there's also good. A note to say that there's another 40-hour maze campaign or something like this hidden away in the game somewhere. So I think you'd be at this for hours in reality. But that's kind of the nature of this. It's not, there is a story arc and you can complete that, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff you can be doing as well. And of course, you can do it in whatever way suits you as well. This is guided by how you play, what adventure you choose and what direction you want to take that adventure. And how you do that is completely different every time because you're not going to move people in the same way, do the same choices, make the same decisions, fight the same battles. So there's an incredible amount of variety in here. And I imagine with a bunch of merry friends, a merry band of friends to play with, you're going to get a lot out of this. If you're into this world and you're into this game, then you're into this game and you're into this world. And that means you're going to love it. There's no doubt about that. I find it difficult to judge. I'm not going to make a judgment about this because I didn't get it far into it. And I can't honestly say that what I played was representative of a game of this magnitude. But what I will say is this. There's a very well-written, enriching kind of experience to be had in here for the people that really like this kind of thing. And I think if you were, you'd be crazy not to play this because this is deliberately aimed at you and involves the world and the rules of the world that you've probably come to understand and know. Now, I don't know. Should these games have been my cup of tea? Maybe. But I think it's the turn-by-turn nature of it that kind of, and the sparse sound effects. I think I just prefer something with a bit more action and stuff in it, I guess. That's kind of what appeals to me. Give me God of War or something like where I'm just smashing stuff with swords and things. I don't need a lot of this talking to people and arrow to the knee and all that. So this is one for the advanced Dungeons & Dragons people for certain. And I don't doubt that this is a very good one of those, but it's kind of a little bit lost on me. I got what I could out of it. And what I'll say is it's probably one of the best ones of these games I've ever played. What did you think?
And you can take that to the bank.
I mean, it's hard for me. I can't be critical of it because of, what can I say?
No, well, I think the fact that you're not critical of it, even though you don't really know much about it, says that I think speaks to the quality of this. I thought this was an impressive slice of advanced Dungeons and Dragons on the machine. I really like the opening to this game. I mean, it starts with a dead lover, someone's character's dead lover sort of turns up on a death dragon, reanimated, and just flies in on a death dragon. You're like, oh, that's a bold opening. Wow, that's like, oh. Poor old Carl. I'm back. And I'm dead. and I'm on a dragon.
This is the last thing we wanted to happen.
Yeah, I was like, wow, cool. And you're straight into combat, a load of undead horses and nightmares, he said, and skeletons. And I was like, okay. And then it took me a couple of goes, but once I got to grips with the turn-based combat mechanics, I thought they were all right, which I thought were pretty good. I started to put some strategies together. One of my party still died.
Yes.
But we did actually. But the other 5 survived. We managed to vanquish the undead, and we set off on our quest. It's quite cool that you've got a load of Solomnic knights fighting with you as well, so it all kind of kicks off.
Cool.
There's a lot of kind of characters in that opening battle.
There is
loads of skeletons and horses, and your characters and the Solomnic. You're like, wow, feels like a big fight going on. And the thing I liked about this was how accessible it was. Controls really simple, like I said, not stupid icon-driven nonsense. It's just all done through the joystick. I could control everything through the joystick. It was all nice and easy. All the options are self-explanatory if you know Dungeons and Dragons. So if you know Dungeons and Dragons, you know things like turn and cast and the spells and stuff. I kind of know them a bit, so I was kind of like, I can do that, right? Yeah, do that. And the different scenarios you go through, such as combat. I like the way that the combat then flowed into exploring, and you get into that sort of Bard's Tale kind of view of the sort of city and place as you're wandering about, and that guy says, "I'll come and meet you," and you carry on and stuff like that. There's definite craft here, and I think that's obvious. The way the AD&D systems have been used to provide a pretty seamless adventure, very clever indeed. Now, had I played this back in the day, I'd never had a disc drive, so I had no chance. I don't think I would have been all over this. I'd had a great time making my way through this. Because I love the Dragonlance books, and I was always looking to actually play them. I think that would have been good. And I like Dungeons and Dragons. And this is engaging and smooth. And for even back then, this would have blown my mind. It'd have been like, wow, this is amazing. In the here and now, the turn-based combat I like. I think it's quite interesting. It allows you to move around the battlefield, position yourself where needed. You can set up like ranks and you kind of sort of come around and stuff. I like the fact that if you try and run away from someone, they'll generally tend to get a hit on you. Things like that were going on. I think it works pretty well. The thing is, though, there's just so many of these types of games these days. Going back, maybe a bit of an ask. And obviously now, if you're talking lineage, the biggest game of 2023, is it 2023? Came out Baldur's Gate 3. Is this modernized? This is that is this taken to the modern end. And so if you're playing things like that, Dragon Age Veilguard, which came out last year, which is obviously in the Dragon Age, those are the kind of the path that these set computers on, going from Wizardry and all those kind of Ultima games. But if you do fancy some classic AD&D action, this is still very playable, easy enough. Get the cartridge version. It's pretty quick and accessible. Kicks you off with a party and off you go. I was impressed with this. I have to say, I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought it might be a bit clunky, but no, it was far from it, and a really decent game. I thought enjoyed it. Death Knights of Krynn. Yeah.
Go and find the cartridge version. It's worth a blast if you're into that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. There you go. That's the Death Knights of Krynn. Well done, Lord Soth. Well done. You've started a good game.
Poor Carl.
Poor Carl. Well, to be fair, he comes back on his death dragon. If you're going to come back.
Yeah, but he's undead.
Yeah, but he's on a death dragon.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's undead. He upset everybody.
Yeah, true. The last thing we want to happen, yeah. Let's move along. Still got one game this part. And that game, well, from the mighty Death Knights of Krynn, we go to the lowly World Championship Soccer. So let us delve once again into the realms of the Arcade Obscura. For this out of time and late to the party conversion of Sega's World Championship Soccer. This was £9.99. Scored a mighty 42%. Always bodes well at this stage of the magazine. Publisher this was Elite. Back on the scene. Coding duties by Mike Limpani or Mike Limpany. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. We've never seen him before. We'll never see him again.
Okay, one hit wonder.
He comes in, gives us this, and wanders off into the darkness. Where did that masked man come from? Graphics here by Paul Robinson and S. Beale. Okay. And the musician was Mike Limpani again. The only person out of those three to have done anything else is Paul Robinson, not Neighbours. But we've never seen any of them. He did games like Cell Rater, Space Bike, Gangster, Time Traveller, and Army Days.
What?
Yeah. Those last three games, Gangster, Time Traveller, and Army Days, were light gun games.
All in the same compilation, I guess.
I don't know what's going on here, probably. Anyway, all three of them came together to make this port of World Championship Soccer. The history of this game is quite convoluted, though, because the wiki states World Championship Soccer is a soccer game running on Sega's Megatech arcade cabinet system and was released as one of the first games for the Sega Genesis system in North America in September 1989. That's quite interesting, considering this is based on Italia 90. The European Mega... So I'm thinking shenanigans went on. The European Mega Drive release, World Cup Italia 90, was published jointly with Olivetti and Virgin Mastertronic. It was an officially licensed franchise game of the 1990 FIFA World Cup, featuring the official logo and mascot. After the World Cup license had expired, the game was renamed to Sega Soccer on the Mega 6 compilation cartridge on the Mega Drive, removing the Virgin Mastertronic credit. A different game was also released as World Cup Italia 90 for the Master System in 1991, but this is not connected to World Championship Soccer. Are you following all this? Because I'm not. In 1990, the game was ported by Elite Systems for DOS, Amiga, ST, T64, and ZX Spectrum, and that's how we've ended up here. I don't know.
Right.
It's very odd. There's a loading screen. Now, I think it's supposed to be the cover of the game, I think. It's like a close-up of a football and some lights in the background. It's all in blue. Very blue. So I'm not quite sure what it is. We then get a title and credit screen with a logo. Looked very familiar to the Microprose Soccer logo, I thought.
Just a bit.
I thought that looks familiar. Then it just switches to a static blue screen with the word soccer in red on blue on the C64.
It's not good.
That's not a good color combo, is it?
No.
There's some options as well, which are World Cup, which is odd as this is World Championship because they didn't have the official license for the World Cup. It's like, what's gone on with this? And then there's a test match, which is what terminology for cricket. Not football. It's a friendly. It's like these people have never played football and don't know anything about it. And you can either do that one or two players. And then there's an option to turn the music on or off to have sound effects. Now, I recommend turning the music on because I've never heard a more incongruous piece of music for a game in my life.
Yeah, totally.
It's a proper disco beat type thing. It makes the football into funky nonsense. It's dead funny. It's like, I want to play football to this.
Strange.
I was like, what is this? I was laughing very hard while playing with the music on. Anyway, choose what you want to play. The game then takes you to a map screen where you have an arrow flicking between the various countries that you're able to play as. Now, this does feature all the countries from Italia 90, which would explain why I couldn't choose France at one point. They obviously weren't there. And to be fair, I went and had a look at the arcade game, and this is doing a pretty good job of replicating that arcade game as a C64 version of that. It does look like the arcade game, but it is what it is. Picking a team, you get a sort of little window comes up with the stats for each team. So that is, they are speed, skill, defense, keeper, and total. It didn't seem to make much sense though. I don't know what they were out of. They were just a number. So I wasn't sure whether they were out of 5, out of 10. I couldn't tell. And you can at that point you can select either yes or no to confirm your choice if you're happy with your team. Once chosen, and unlike the arcade game, because the arcade game then goes off at this point, and you have to pick your players for each position. And it's worth looking at the arcade game because they obviously didn't have the license to players. So Gary Lineker's in there, I think, and things like that. And it's Brain Robson and stuff like that. But you don't get that here. It's just straight onto the game itself. Okay. And at this point, I mean, to be fair, this does a decent job of representing the arcade game a bit more zoomed in as C64ified, because it's a top-down vertical scrolling version of football. Think Microprose Soccer. Just the problem is it's only more zoomed in and nowhere near as good, and that's what you've got here. So the top 3/4 of the screen have the pitch view, and I quite like the shading on the pitch. It's not bad. It's quite a nicely shaded pitch for this round on. There's fairly large sprites for the players that are not too bad, apart from when the goalie comes out and does this weird dive or something and he grows massive and well grown. I don't know what happens to him, but it goes a bit weird. There's the UI, which is quite possibly the barest UI I've ever seen. It's got the score for player 1, the team you're playing on the left, and the same for player 2 on the right. There's a couple of arrows in yellow and blue pointing up or down to let you know which way you're going, and then there's a timer, which is just a number counting up in the middle. And all games last 6 minutes. Counts up 6. It's just bare bones. It's very bare bones. The game itself though is fast and frantic, and it's true to the arcade version. Controls are simple enough. 8-way movement. You control the nearest player to the ball if you're in defense. Or the player with the ball in attack. In defense, you can slide with the fire button in the direction you're running. And in attack, you have 3 kicking options. So these are, if you just stand still, pressing fire does a low kick towards, and it does it towards the opposing goal no matter which way you are facing. So if you're running backwards and you stop and you press fire, it'll kick it behind you. It's very odd.
Very strange.
I don't know why they thought this was a good one. If you press fire and push up, that does a low kick in the direction you're running. And if you so press fire does that, and if you if you press fire and down, it does a high kick, so a lofted kick, a lob, whatever. So the problem here is these controls are not directionally dependent. So they don't change in the direction depending on, they just are that way. It's always down, it's always up. So if you're running sort of top right, you'd expect back left to be down. No, it's down. So if you're running down the screen and press fire, you'll always do a high kick. So if you're, if you're aiming down towards the goal at the bottom, it's very hard to do a low kick because you have to stop or you have to press fire and push up, which is massively counterintuitive. It's really stupid. It's odd. It's confusing. The controls in any football game should be dependent on your direction of travel. That's just a fundamental part of something, I think. You know, and considering Micro Soccer did that a while back, it's just there's no reason why it's not doing it. It's just rubbish. There's no fouls in the game. So you slide away, and it's the only way to get the ball off your opponent. The ball sticks to them. Should you get close to your goal, or if they get close to your goal, then you control the goalkeeper as you try and wrestle the ball off their attacker, but you won't be able to do that. More often than not, they were just stood in the my 6-yard box for a couple of seconds for whacking the ball in the goal. That's what kept happening over again. So the game, I guess, it's fast, it's arcadey, it's true to the arcade version, but it's not a good version of football. And there are other issues beside the weird controls, which see you running down the pitch and constantly whacking the ball over the net because you're pulling down and pressing fire, which of course is a high kick. The two teams are always yellow and blue, no matter who you pick, which is weird because I picked Brazil versus Italy at one point, and then Brazil were in blue and Italy were in yellow, which made no sense. So it's just because they just don't change. It's always those two colours. So, there are no other colours. The view, as I said, is too zoomed in, so any kind of tactics goes out the window. You always play 4-4-2, but it makes little difference because all your players just run around like headless chickens, and the computer will just take the ball off you no matter who you are and score relentlessly. It's not the worst football game I've ever played, but it sits in that ever-expanding middle pile of mediocrity that the machine has by now. It's just a mediocre football game, if that. 42% is probably about right. And it's also a year late to the World Cup at this point. Yeah. So, we had a couple of games that already did this. And on top of that, if you want this kind of view for your football, you've probably already got Micro Soccer.
True.
Or you can go play that. If you're doing it now, just go play that because that plays infinitely better, looks better, and offers loads more ways to play football, which makes this not only late, but redundant. So it's not like the game's come in and gone, wow, we're late, but we're brilliant. It's like you're late and it's average. It's, great, well done. Who was crying out for this to be ported to the home machines at this point? And at full price, £10.
Very strange.
I mean, Elite have sort of formed for this. Stick it on as a bonus on a compilation, maybe, or out of budget. You've got your Encore label. You might forgive then the lack of depth. Just, £3 kickabout. Yeah, okay. Full price? No. Can't do that. This sinks. 42% is about right. It's a miss. It's out of time. It's out of its place. It's out of everything, and it's not particularly great. And those controls are stupid. So go play Micro Soccer. What did you think?
Yeah, all the same. I mean, I started it and kind of got over. I was like, ugh, it's all very in your face, and everything felt zoomed in weirdly on that title screen and that loading screen. Everything was a bit too close for my liking. I inadvertently, because I wanted to sort of quickly get to the beginning of things, just went through options and ended up selecting Korea as my football team against the UAE, which was weird. And then the zoomed in game began. Everything was a bit closer from the top down view than I kind of expected it to be. It didn't look bad. It didn't look bad, and the controls were just a bit bitty, and it didn't feel any. It was just not a competitor in this field, and way too late to the party to be anything, and too expensive. Was it an okay football game? I don't know. I found that it was impossible to get the ball off them when they got it, and they just scored every time they got near the goal, no matter what. I think I saved one goal. Every other time, the keeper was just all over the place, and it just felt a little bit over punishing and underwhelming. And I suppose you could play football in it, but I've played Micro Soccer came along and kind of just set the standard for this, and you're either as good as that or you're not. And this one's way short of that. But for the same kind of money, you're going to buy Micro Pro Soccer if you're going to buy a C64 game at this point for this. So I thought, it had it in budget, I think you're exactly right. I think it might have had a little bit more about it because you'd have forgiven it some of the weirdness and the things around the edges that sort of set it up for what it is. But I don't know. The players kind of look they looked a bit weird. They're sort of heads and shoulders, aren't they? It's all they kind of way. You're all heads and shoulders, you guys.
Yep.
apart from when they're sliding around, which took on a weird turn when they were flying about there. And like you said, I'm not sure I was really controlling the ball when I got it, if I'm honest. I didn't have it for long when I did, and it just seemed they instantly took the ball off me, and I could never seem to catch them up. It's like they were, steroid-fed Olympiads or something as runners, because they just took off with the ball. I'm like, I don't know what they're feeding them in there, wherever they were from, but they were certainly able to run a bit quick. So did I enjoy the game that I played? No. Could you play it? Yeah, you could probably have a bit of a blast with it, but are you going to? Not at this price. So
no.
It's an odd license, really. A bit of a weird, quirky thing to release now, especially by Elite. So
yeah, and ironically, the one we couldn't remember is actually on the demo tape. The tape for this magazine, the Super Cup Football, which was that early top-down view one we had. It was like came out in 1988. We reviewed it way ages back, and that's for free on the tape with this magazine. And it's a better game of football than this. So
weird. I mean, it looks better on the 16 bits. This one, so maybe that was really where its heart was.
Yeah,
because you get the little map view that's common to these things. I don't know if that was in the arcade. I didn't look at the arcade, but the Amiga one certainly has a better graphic view, although similar. It just has that sort of. I think you do need that when you're this zoomed into these football games. You kind of need a bit of a map view, because if you kick the ball off, I mean, I don't think you can kick the ball off screen on this, but if you do kick it further up screen, you've got no idea who you're passing it to, have you? Really? No. You just kind of you play this game how I play it, which is run around and hope. So nah, it's just not as good as other football games. I don't quite know why you'd play it or buy it at this point. So
well, you wouldn't. Not it just doesn't offer anything, does it? It's not. There's been loads of these top-down ones, and if you're going to do something different, you need to do something like that. I play 3D soccer, or at least try something different. Because when you're up against Micropro Soccer, you're in that arena. You've got to bring your A game, or
I mean, it's got to be Elite's final hurrah on the C64. I don't remember their bit. I thought they'd already quit, but I don't remember there being much else. So
I've no idea. I thought they'd probably. I thought it was long gone. We haven't seen them for a while, have we? Apart from they've got the Encore label, which they keep releasing stuff on.
Yeah, I wonder if Sega had written to them and go, "Do you remember that game you paid you for the license for?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, about that, yeah, there it is. Found it. Sorry, Sega, found it." There you go.
Yeah, it's quite possible. But there you go. That's what's it? World Championship Soccer. Yeah. Forgettable. Forgettable. There you go. That's it. That's the first two games this week. We're going to go away. We're going to take a break after our adventuring in Krynn and playing rubbish football. We're going to come back. We're going to go to the cinema then and see what films we're playing at our local picture box. So please stick with us. We'll be back in a moment. And we're back. We're at the cinema. Not as many films as normal this month, I have to say.
No,
but still a few. And some big ones this month. Yeah, a couple of big ones. 5th of July, you could have just gone and seen The Marrying Man. Have you heard of this?
You could have. I have not.
I haven't either.
Never heard of it.
A millionaire playboy goes to Las Vegas and comes out married to a woman he barely knows. It was written by Neil Simon, who I have heard of, starring Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. I've heard of them, but never heard of that.
No, I haven't. But
she was hot property, though, at this point, becoming Kim Basinger. So
Yeah. Well, were they a couple at this point when they were married, weren't they?
Basinger and Baldwin?
Yeah.
I think they were. They've been together. Oh, had been. I don't know if they still are, but they've been together quite a while. So, yeah, I imagine they probably were.
Yeah.
Lucky devil, I bet people were saying back then. Lucky devil.
Absolutely. Alec Baldwin's quite the catch.
Yeah, he is. Good looking guy.
He really is.
His brother Mike Baldwin was a narsehole, though, on Coronation Street, wasn't
he? The elder Baldwin.
Yeah.
Adam, Alec, and Mike.
Yeah. He was.
Let me take you around.
Always punching Ken in the face.
Let me take you around Barlow's. Let me meet my wife, Kim Basinger. Meet mine, Deirdre.
Deirdre.
Oh, Deirdre. Anyway, Mike Baldwin. 12th of July, Thelma and Louise was out.
It was, yes. Big old film, that one, an Oscar winner.
Yeah, iconic. An iconic film, this. Lots of reasons. I think, it's one of those films held up in Hollywood as we're tackling an issue.
Yeah.
Look at us, we're feminists, that sort of
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And, fair play. I mean, it's obviously one of the good, it's in the good Ridley Scott camp, I think, because Ridley Scott's made some bad stuff. But
yeah, it is one of his most accomplished ones, I think, in terms of plaudits anyway.
Yeah, and obviously the main two stars, Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon, are very, very good in this. It is a very good film. And for those who don't know, it probably I can't imagine anyone doesn't, but it's two best friends set out on an adventure, soon turns around to a terrifying escape from being hunted by the police as these two women escape for the crimes they have committed, which is protect themselves. Someone tries, it's been a while since I watched it, but doesn't someone try to sort of assault one of them and they kill him?
I think it's something like that, and then the police go on to look for a hunt for him, don't they? And exploring the relationship between Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, and as ever, a very, very good pastiche of this in The Simpsons.
Yes, there is. Yeah, of course there is.
Yeah. It's a ghost car. Hold me. But yeah, a very good film, and still worth a watch to this day, I think.
It is.
It's good. If you didn't fancy that on the 12th of July, then you could have gone and seen Hudson Hawk.
Could, yeah. You would have been one of the few that did.
Yeah, cat burglar is forced to steal Da Vinci works of art for a world domination plot. That's a strange plot. I mean, over to you on this one. You like this, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think it's really weird and quirky, and it appeals to my weird, quirky sort of. I don't know. There's just something about it. It's stupid. I mean, the plot is completely incoherent for this. Really weird. But it's just got some really interesting characters and some really weird throwaway one-liners, and just is a genuine sense of bizarreness about it. I mean, it wasn't well received by the critics at all. This was directed by the guy that did Heathers, for goodness sake. So, it came from and it's got some pretty heavyweight actors in it. But there's a couple of things that are interesting that you need to note about this. So obviously it was directed by Michael Lehman, and it also starred Bruce Willis. Problem here was that Bruce Willis this was a year after the release of one of the big action movies, Die Hard, I guess, or one of those big action movies.
Yeah, it would have been Die Hard, yeah.
And the trailers for this pitched this as an action film. So it was because obviously that was not what they thought it was, but that's what they wanted it to be. And it's not that. It's not that at all. It's a really weird story about a bank robber who, it's almost impossible to explain Hudson Hawk, but he has to steal, like you said, some parts of a codex, which is created by Leonardo da Vinci, in order for the evil people in it, Minerva, I can't remember the surname of them now, but in Minerva and the Mayflowers, the Mayflowers are going to go for world domination by turning lead into gold and dominating the world's gold deposits. So it's just really a strange idea. Meanwhile, that CIA, led by James Coburn, are working with the Mayflower. It's really convoluted, and it also involves the Pope and a nun, and it's really strange. Anyway, I quite like it for its weird quirkiness. When they rob banks and when they rob places, they sing a song because that's how they manage the timing for the bank robberies. So it's kind of a part musical as well. So you can sort of see why it was kind of not necessarily rated the best. So to give you an idea of the kind of reviews that this was getting, the end result, this was from the Chicago Tribune, the end result is for the film is being thrown up on selected screens this weekend, and the suspicion that this was a pooch turns out to be undeniably correct. Boring and banal, overwrought and undercooked. Hudson Hawk is beyond bad. You've got here it got 2 thumbs down from Siskel and Ebert. They described the film as a complete disaster. Every line starts from zero and gets nowhere. And then you've got Variety called the film a relentlessly annoying clay duck that crash lands in a sea of wretched excess and silliness. Those willing to check their brains at the door may find sparse amusement. Peter Travis of Rolling Stone said, a movie so unspeakably awful can make an audience a little crazy. You might want to throw things, yell at actors, beg them to stop. And James Brundage of AMC Film Critics said the film was so implausible and so over the top that it lets inconsistently roll off like water on a duck's back. A colossally sour and ill-conceived misfire.
Wow.
Wasn't very well received. It's got 31% rating on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment. It's Hudson Hawk's kitchen sink approach to its blend of action and slapstick results in a surreal, baffling misfire. And that's what I like about it. I think it is stupid and it's dumb and it makes no sense. There's loads of fourth wall breaking. There's loads of really silly sequences in it. Loads of stuff that doesn't work. But you've got some really interesting performances. Danny Aiello's funny in it. Bruce Willis is funny with it. James Coburn cracks me up loads in that film because he's just totally, you can see, isn't it? And this is a guy that famously plays in a lot of these films, but he's in this for just being stupid. And you've got Dave Caruso in it. You've got loads of Sandra Bernhardt, Richard E. Grant, Andy McDowell. It's got a cast. Even Frank Stallone's in that film.
Frank Stallone? Oh, God. Yeah. I need to watch it again.
He plays a guy called Caesar Mario.
Of course he does. What else would he play? But
it's a really strange film that has no real ending of sorts. It's really daft, really stupid, but for reasons I can't explain. For the same reason I kind of like that film where there's a flashback from a hammer and he remembers that he was a spanner or whatever it was in whatever that one's called. I can't remember what that stupid film is called.
Freaked.
Freaked. For the same reason I like Freaked And films of this type, this does not fit in any mold. And I quite like it for that. It has some really, really weird stuff going on in it, and it just appeals to me a bit. So there you go, Hudson Hawk. Go and watch it. It is really stupid, though, and it makes no sense, but don't expect it to, I think, is the key there.
Yeah. Okay. I might give it another watch. It's been years since I've watched it.
Just watch it, because if you watch it, and if you watch that film and don't go at it thinking that it's actually anything serious or coherent, it's just loads of stupid stuff happening. In the same way that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is loads of stupid stuff happening and it makes no sense, or Revenge of the Killer Tomatoes. It's just another one of those. And if you watch it in that vein, there's the odd one-liner in it that just cracks you up because it's so stupid. It's like, honestly, and James Coburn comes out with quite a few of them. So go and give it a watch just for a laugh. You won't like it, but go and give it a watch.
Okay. Well, if you didn't fancy either of those two, Thelma and Louise or Hudson Hawk, you could have gone and seen White Wedding, which I was disappointed to find wasn't based on the Billy Idol song. But it's actually, to give you the plot, Francois, 49, is a happily married teacher. Concerned that rebellious student Mathilde is going to be expelled, he sets out to help her, but is soon drawn into a passionate relationship with her, which has devastating consequences. Saucy Frenchness, I think. Yeah. Vanessa Paradis was in this, and she was awarded a César, which is the French equivalent of an Oscar for it. I've never heard of it, never seen it.
No, I haven't. I remember Vanessa Paradis because she sang Joe La Taxi, didn't she?
She did, yeah. She did. If you did fancy any of those three, then you could have always gone see, if you could have found it, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Ooh, bleak.
Bleak is it? Otis. Plug it in, Otis.
Plug it in, Otis. Yeah, it isn't a very nice film, that.
No, it got a bit of reputation, didn't it, when it came out?
Deserved.
I remember the gore mags being all over it, but ironically, there's not that much sort of gore in it. It's just unremittingly bleak, isn't it?
Well, it's horrifically violent in every way that a film of that kind could be. It's not necessarily the gory part, although there is,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
it's not. Around, but it's just horrific portrayal of violence. You got murders all over the shopping. I mean, obviously it's about a serial killer, but they're really brutally filmed and very handy cam, sort of very, very low budget.
Very matter of fact.
Very matter of fact. Because some of it, obviously, the Henry, the serial killer, loosely based, I guess, on Henry Lee Lucas, I think, in some way or other, but maybe. But he's obviously, him and his compadre Otis go and kill an entire family in like a house raid type thing, and they film it all on VHS cameras, and then they're watching the footage back. And that's how you kind of watch it vicariously like that. And it is really dark filmmaking of that type. And the whole thing's bleak. There's a horrific assault on a woman in it, which is just horrible. Well, one of many, but it's a brutal film of that type, and totally unusual for that film and that director as well. Really strange. Yeah, it's not a pleasant thing. It's not a joyous thing. And then it ends. You think it's going to end on a slightly happy note, and then of course it doesn't. It was never going to be out because it's one of those. It's not like there's an investigator chasing them down. There's a crime being committed, and it's not. This isn't the Seven or anything. No. Although it does end as bleakly. This isn't anything like. There is no police in this, as far as I remember. I don't think there's even a police officer in the entire thing. This is about a serial killer killing and the crazy mindset that he's in, and how uncontrollable and crazy that person is, and that's all there is to it. It's that. Yeah. It's what's his face, isn't it? I can't remember his name. Michael Rooker, isn't it? Michael Rooker, yeah. Who go on to. He's a great actor, and he's great in that. But he always seems to. Whenever I've seen him in anything else, he always plays that character. It's like he's playing that guy. When he's in The Walking Dead, he played that guy. It's like he's playing Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer again. But maybe that's just who he is. Not a serial killer, but he's a good actor. He was good in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. He's got exactly. It's what I mean. But he played Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. He didn't really play that in that. a little lighter. If you fancy dooming yourself out, then go watch Henry. One for a bleak end. That one, forget that. You go for a good old bleak end. Yeah, indeed. 19th of July. God bless him. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Goodness me, this was a big hit, wasn't it? It was. I mean, it was a huge. I mean, obviously on the back of the song and everything, but this was a massive. One of the big three for this year, I think. There was 3 big films. But this is, huge. And it's an enjoyable romp. It still is to this day. It's just a fun action film, with lots of good characters, some funny lines, great situations, really good sort of action set pieces. Yeah. The ending, the sort of assault on the castle towards the end, it's really good. Yep. Kevin Reynolds directed it? Yeah, I think so. If I remember rightly, because they'd obviously go on to do Waterworld together, wouldn't they? Kevin Costner and Kevin Reynolds. He's got a really good eye for
sort of pacing and shots, and there's some really unusual sort of camera use. It's just it just works as a and it was up against that other Robin Hood film I think at the time, the Patrick Bergen one, I think, if I remember rightly, which wasn't very good. And this was just fun. I mean, this was just a good fun, and and it had Sean Connery at the end.
It did, yeah. I forgot he turned up at the end, didn't he?
Yeah, because you look radiant.
Silent. Yeah, it is good. Great soundtrack as well. On Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, really great.
Absolutely.
I remember it opening that. Remember the opening credits coming on. I'm thinking, well, this is pretty good, isn't it? It plays around with. Well, it's not playing around with anything. Well, yeah, it does. I mean, goodness, the geography's off the chart, wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't matter, does it? As long as it's Englandish.
Morgan Freeman's great in it. Christian Slater's good.
Yes. It's got a good cast. It's a good, fun film. It was a film that was needed because up to that point, it had been a bit Robin Hood Men in Tights, that kind of vibe. And Robin Hood had a bit of a... So this kind of brought a little bit of the storytelling and the narrative of the thing back. And it had great... I mean, goodness me, the Sheriff in Nottingham in that is one of the best portrayals of the Sheriff in Nottingham.
Yeah.
Because he's so good in that.
Yeah.
He's really, really good in that. Really funny. And there's actually an extended version of Robin Hood Prince of Thieves you can get now on Blu-ray or whatever.
Oh, is that?
Which has got, with a whole load of extra sequences. I think it's about 10 minutes longer. So there's quite a lot extra in there.
I have to go seek that out. I've not seen that. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. It's just any time I see it come on and I sit down, I'm like, I'm just in for a good 2.25 hours.
You went to the cinema quite a few times to see it, didn't you? And one of those times you dressed as Robin Hood, didn't you? With green tights and that little hat and everything.
I did, yeah. Absolutely. And I did wear the hat on my head or the tights on my legs. That's why they threw me out.
and Gary went as Friar Tuck, didn't he? But weirdly, he called himself Friar Buck. And we couldn't understand why he changed the name. It just seemed one of those quirky things that he does.
He was happy. Again, sort of thing. He didn't wear the robes on his body.
No. It was a sight to see. That was.
Yeah, it was an odd match.
Yeah. But I remember queuing to see that. Well, queuing. We went really early and sort of stood outside the cinema for about 2 hours in the rain, so that we could be the first into a screening of which there was nobody but us in there, and that weird old guy that was always in there. But you know what? We saw it first, and that's what mattered, didn't it?
That mattered.
That was the all important thing back then, is that we were one of the first to see it. At least it was to one of our friends who was borderline obsessed with doing that. It didn't really matter to me as much.
Yeah, if in a modern day sort of thing, we would have made loads of money off being the first to see that, and done a YouTube reaction video with a with a exclamation face showing it.
Yes, we'd have all been clutching our spoons and pretending to be violent with them, and
something like that. If you did fancy Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, why wouldn't you, fool? Yeah, you could have gone and seen Alice.
Yeah, you could.
Which
I never did.
No, a spoiled Manhattan housewife reevaluates her life after visiting a Chinatown healer. It's a Woody Allen film.
Yeah.
It's going to be like all this period of Woody Allen films.
Yeah, angst-ridden, indecision, and I kind of stopped watching Woody Allen after a certain period, because after the ones that I liked, Bananas and stuff like that, I just kind of never really got into some of them, the more recent ones. There was a couple that I quite liked, but this one, nah.
No. 26th of July, Edward Scissorhands came out.
Big fan of this, aren't you? You really like this one.
Yeah, I love this film. This is my favourite Tim Burton film. This for me is it's quintessential Tim Burton. It's all whimsical. Danny Elfman score. I think Winona Ryder and Johnny Depp are both brilliant in this, irrespective of what's happened since. But Johnny Depp as Edward Scissorhands is just great. He's just brilliant in this. It was kind of like Tim Burton's used Johnny Depp a lot, didn't he? But I think this is, I think this is just great. Excellently shot, great sets. It's a really nice sort of 50s Americana style to it, which I think kind of works really well. This sort of retelling of the Frankenstein story. I think I've watched this again recently. For me, this still stands up. Some beautiful moments, all sort of choreographed really well with when he's cutting the ice and the snow's falling down and she's spinning round, and it's just. And it's really sad at the beginning when Vincent Price, dies, his creator.
I mean, I actually, it's not my favourite Tim Burton movie. But
what is?
That said, that's actually a good question. I have to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of his, but it's not my favourite one of his. What's my favourite Tim Burton? Well, maybe Beetlejuice, the first one, but that's kind of just appeals more to me. I hate the most recent one. He's utter crap, by the way. But Edward Scissorhands is a very good movie. But every other Tim Burton movie I can think of has literally left my brain right now, so I can't think of any others.
Big Fish, Batman Returns.
I never really liked that Batman that much. It was all right.
The guy who made Plan 9 from Outer Space. He did the biopic of him, didn't he?
The Mars Attacks I quite liked.
Attacks.
Yeah, I quite like that. So there's some things I like a little bit of all of his films. Are just the ones that really stick with me are the Beetlejuices and stuff like that. And I think that's more for his vision of quirky weird and goth, which of course Edward Scissorhands does lean into quite nicely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I like these versions of Tim Burton films with this kind of storytelling and the kind of quirky angles and the really obtuse eye of the camera. Now, I like that about all of them, except he doesn't do that. Weirdly, in the newer films, like the recent Beetlejuice, it's almost like he's trying to revisit that and create. It's almost like a parody of his own style, and it doesn't work. It's like he can't do his own style again. It's really weird. It's like watching an impersonator do a version of Beetlejuice, even though it's Tim Burton. It's really strange. And of course, he did do Nightmare Before Christmas, which is, even though it's animated.
That's good. Sleepy Hollow's good as well.
Yeah, another good one. There's a few that are in there, and I like a little bit of all of them.
Are you a Sweeney Todd fan?
Yeah, like I said, there's bits of them I like in all of them. Particularly, if there's anything, I really like the consistent Danny Elfman scores and stuff because they're always brilliant. And so,
his Batman score was amazing, wasn't it?
That combined with some of the quirky sets and characters and the odd, I can take something from most of them, with the exception of the most recent one. So I quite like his films, but not enough to really say I've got a favourite, really.
Fair enough. If you didn't fancy that, you could have gone and seen My Mother's Castle.
No,
it's another French film. No, and then if you, not that we've got anything in French films, but just never heard of it, so I've got nothing to say about it. It's just. And if you didn't fancy that, there was The Adventures of Milo and Otis.
I vaguely remember it. But no.
Young cat and a dog find themselves accidentally separated and each swept into a hazardous trek.
Yeah.
I remember it. I don't think I've ever watched it.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. No, I don't. It's not going to be one that's on my radar at this point. I'm basically I'm sat at home having watched Robin Hood, waiting for Terminator 2 at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think Terminator 2 and Backdraft, that's the other one I sort of remember as being...
Oh, Backdraft. I watched that not long ago, actually, Backdraft, strangely enough. Because I wanted to see if I was right about it, and I was. So.
Well, yeah. Were you right about that saddle?
I was right about it. Yes, I was right. It's really stupid. It's really dumb, stupid. And Donald Sutherland had me howling with laughter.
That's another one of the Baldwins in that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. One of the Baldwins, not Mike.
Not Mike, unfortunately. Yeah. It would have been much better if Mike was in it.
It's just, there's a couple of things, we're not going, we'll talk about it at the time, but it's just, when Kurt Russell runs into a burning building without any breathing apparatus on, that made me laugh. Not for the horrible reasons, but because it's actually impossible to do that.
But it's Kurt Russell, he can do anything.
You can't just hold your breath and run into a burning building. Any firefighter would go, don't do that, because that will kill you, you'd be dead. And then the other bit is Donald Sutherland's creepy Hannibal Lecter-style wannabe character, absolutely full. I was in hysterics. Probably not for the right reasons, really, in a film like that. But I was rolling on the floor laughing at his creepy portrayal of the serial killer, arsonist. Oh, it killed me. It's so funny.
Oh. Well, I'll probably have another watch that when we get to that one, I think. But
should. It's not great, but it is funny. Fire effects are good, though. Goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. That was it for the cinema. Edward Scissorhands, Robin Hood, Thelma Louise, Hudson Hawk.
Robin Hood. God bless it. God bless Robin Hood. Yeah, it's a good lineup of stuff, and we were obsessed with that Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer and getting that on pirate video at the time.
Yeah, true.
Remember getting that crappy copy in Squinto Vision when Rick brought it round. It's like, we've got a copy. We're all sat there going, what's happening? It's like crappiest quality of anything ever put to anything.
I think it was about 5th generation VHS, wasn't it? Something.
Yeah, filmed through bog paper and while someone was on the loo.
Plug it in. Plug it in. Turn it off.
So crap. You need to turn the contrast down, the brightness up. You have to basically turn it into a black and white movie. And I remember faffing about with the tracking settings on the video. What a nightmare. What a nightmare.
Here we go. That's it. We're going to go away, take a quick break after that lot. Come back. We've still got 2 games. One of them a big one. Crapverts, charts, all kinds of stuff still going on. So please do stay with us. And we are back. And before we get going, if you are curious as to what Japanese RPG Graham was talking about, during the Death Knights of Krynn
Forgot about that.
section, it was Lost Odyssey.
That's it, Lost Odyssey. God, yeah, I remember putting that in, watching the endless movie sequence at the beginning for half an hour.
Yeah.
And then going, not for me, this, and then turning it off.
I remember you telling me. So I think there's a bit where they were going up a hill or something, and some character went ha 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 or something, and you went.
It was the really bad voice acting. Yeah,
you went. I'd had enough and turned it off, and I never went back to
he
it.
said something. He said something you don't normally say, and I can't think what it was, but it's like a phrase where it's like people go. I can't remember. It'll come back to me, and all of a sudden I shout it out, no doubt. But there was just this phrase that we don't say it that way, and it was just sort of said. It's almost like saying "goodness me," but not like that. No, it's a phrase like that where he goes. I can't remember, but I remember the character saying a word that you would normally be an exclamation. It's not like saying the word sigh, going sigh, and it wasn't that, but it was like that. Like, oh, not good.
Yeah, I remember you telling me going, oh, I don't think I'll play that.
No.
And I didn't. Actually, no, I did. And I think I got a little bit further than you and then turned it off.
Yeah.
It wasn't for us. Anyway, so there you go. Just in case you were wondering. We've still got 2 games to get into. So, Graham, it's over to you. The Lost Odyssey. It's time to tell us about Ninja Rabbits.
Ninja Rabbits. I think it was Geez Whiz. I think he says
Geez Whiz, that was it. Geez Whiz. I remember you telling me, you said, oh, I was playing it, and he got up a thing and he went, Geez Whiz, and I turned it off immediately.
Yeah, nobody says it like that. Geez Whiz, what are you doing? I was like, no, off you go. And you're never going back in my Xbox, and it never did. Ever.
It didn't. Geez Whiz. Cheese Whiz.
Cheese Whiz. Anyway, Geez Whiz, this is Ninja Rabbits, £2.99. Slap 50% on it, though. Ooh, why? Why is it only 50%? What happened? This is published by Micro Value. It was coded by somebody called Sparky. He did another game called International Ninja Rabbits, which looks a lot like this one.
Oh.
And the musician here is Sean Connolly. Brother of... He's not that one.
Surely not.
This is
Sean Ninja
Connolly.
Rabbits.
Not Sean Connery. This is Sean Connolly. His clearly diabolical duplicate.
His Mexican counterpart.
It's Sean Cannoli. So this was released on the Amiga, Atari ST, Commodore 64, and DOS. DOS, weird that. So what's it all about then? Well, according to the blurb, and it's only short, Ninja Rabbits take on the role of human-like ninja warriors in a fight against the pollution of their environment. Did you get that from this game? Okay, maybe you did.
Okay.
There has been a leakage at a large chemical plant that has filled the air and burrows with a very nasty nerve gas. The gas has caused the normally peaceful animals in their kingdom to become especially aggressive towards our friendly rabbit. The rabbit takes it on himself to try and get to the factory that is causing all the problems. Once there, he must stop the lab technicians from making any more of these non-friendly chemicals until the leak has been put right and new safety guides have been introduced to stop this from ever happening again. I'm sensing a little bit of an eco message in there. I'm sensing a fan of Watership Down. I'm sensing a fan of Yasaki Yojimbo. I'm sensing of those things.
I'm sensing a fan of the rabbits.
And rabbits, yes. So what is this then? Well, it starts off with actually quite a nicely drawn, or the angry rabbit, isn't it?
Very angry.
Very angry looking. There's some lively music. The music doesn't suit this game whatsoever, considering it's based on ninjas. And no, there's also a really, really weird title screen when it appears. Now, this title screen, I'll swear looked like it had stepped from 1983 and just sort of jumped into view. And then there's quite a, I guess, what you call well-animated rabbit on the screen doing fighting moves.
Yeah.
But it's really strange. You've got 2 options, F1 for high scores, F3 for normal or difficulty settings, and fire to begin. And then it says the copyright. It's really strange. It is like a throwback to an Atari type screen. It's really strange. No logo as such, just big writing, that big wide writing that you get on these sort of things, early games.
Yeah.
So you'll start the game and then you'll begin your adventure on your quest to find the factory to stop the toxic nerve gas from being released to affect all the animals. What you'll see is a variation of a Yasaki Yojimbo, being kind there. Where on the left-hand side, you'll see your rabbit, the same rabbit that was on the title screen doing all those fancy moves. It's quite a well-drawn rabbit, quite big on the screen. Weirdly shaded, though. Weird-looking thing it is. And then there's some sort of backgrounds which have scaling issues and other issues around that. Bit strange, but there's mountains in the background and then what look like cottages and stately homes from rural Lincolnshire.
It's very odd.
Strange. So that's the Watership Down part. So you're kind of walking through the countryside, really. But it's got Japanese mountains at the back and you're a ninja. Okay. There's some foreground objects as well. Bushes, rocks, little animated things that pop up and around, worms and odd things like that sort of say little badgers and things that pop out. The UI is at the bottom of the screen, which is the most triangular-looking non-shaded carrot that's ever been rendered to the C64. I mean, if you're going to draw a carrot and it is a carrot shape, I'll give it that. Do it like that because that is just carrot. No messing. You can't mistake what it is.
No.
And then there's the score in the middle, which is an ambitious series of 5 zeros. Strange. And then you've got your number of rabbits on the right-hand side, of which you start with 3. You will walk across to the right-hand side using the joystick, and then you can do a series of fighting moves. These vary from a high kick to a low kick to a random series of things. I wouldn't say there's a lot of moves in here. You can sort of side kick. I couldn't turn around, so I could only face one direction. So I think I was going to say, so you can only face one direction. And you can jump and sort of jump backwards and jump forwards, but not somersault backwards. He just sort of goes, hey, backwards or hey, forwards. But you can't do any kind of flying kick. So you can only sort of stand and fight and then walk to the right. You will be assailed on each screen by one of a series of different animal fighters, badgers, I guess, rabbits, otters, beavers. I think this is strange array. I couldn't really identify what all of them were. They're all basically fight the exact same as you. They walk up to you and just kind of shuffle and fidget and kind of wait for you to just kick them in the mouth and face, and eventually they just go, fall over on the ground. If you're lucky, you won't get another one, and then you can walk off to the right and go to the next screen. If you're unlucky, you'll get another one, and then you have to fight. Very much like the way of Exploding Fist 2. Fist 2 had that kind of... It's a lot like that.
It is very much, yes.
So then you'll walk off that screen. Mercifully, it doesn't scroll, so you don't do any moonwalking, but it's flip screen. So you'll go to the next screen. There'll be another image of maybe a cottage or something in the background or whatever. And then you'll see on the ground, you might see that there's little brown, I guess they're mole hills or holes, but you can then climb down those or fall down those, and you'll go into the underground caves section. There you'll find more angry animals, been converted to the way of the whatever the hell they are. And they will all, for reasons unknown, just fight you instantly, and you've got to battle your way through them. There are objects on the floor that are really difficult to pick up. So you have to actually go and stand before the objects and bend down to pick them up. You can't be on them and pick them up. It doesn't work for reasons I'm not sure about. So you've got to position yourself correctly to pick objects up. You can't just walk over them. You've got to bend, get near them and be in the right position. And then you'll walk to the right again. And you can go back on yourself. So you can go back to the left, but you have to walk backwards to do that, which is really stupid. So you're constantly you're encouraged to go to the right. And then as you do that, you'll be underground. There's some, but I guess they're okay graphics at this point. I mean, none of the graphics in the backgrounds are what you call really bad. They're a bit sparse and they're a bit dull. The rabbit will be attacked, maybe. You also might see the occasional ladder down here, which you can then climb up and go to the next stage, or you can sort of fight your way across. At this point, you probably get more than 2, maybe even 3 enemies to sort of thwart your progress on the screen, which you've got to fight. If they beat you up too much, you're going to lose a life. If you lose 3 lives, it's game over. There's no saves or anything like that in this as such. There's no save points or anything. So if you lose, you've got to start the whole thing again. And so that's kind of how the game plays. Walk to the right, beat things up. Now, the problem here is that if this was for fast pace and exciting, like Usagi Yojimbo, where you could, do all of that, take all that away, remove all that. You don't need any of that. All that nonsense that came with a game of that magnitude. You don't need that. This is cut down to the chase. Walk, fight, keep walking. And it's all slow. So the fighting moves feel fidgety and flicky, but the walking is like, so you're a rabbit, for goodness sake. Rabbits are pretty fast, as I recall. Speedy, one might say.
Yeah.
Not this one, though. It seems that when you go bipedal as a rabbit and you're transformed into a 6 foot, it's more like a kangaroo, really. Think about it. You get really slow. You're lumbersome. Your body's, you're heavier. I suppose if you're used to the gravity affecting you as a rabbit, a human-sized rabbit is going to be pretty gravity intense, isn't it? You're not going to be used to it. Your bone structure's not geared for that. So that means he moves and fights. He fights faster than he moves, but he moves really slowly. But then so does everybody. Everything's slow in this game, really slow. It's just dreary. The game's really dreary and boring. Boring game, boring.
Yeah.
Boring title screen. Apart from the loading screen's okay, but boring title screen from 1983. When you start the game, countryside backgrounds, but walking past them really slowly, boring. Drop into the holes and then fight more things, boring. Climb up the ladders. You don't climb the ladders, actually. There's no climb animation. You just jumps up, which is a bit naff. What this felt like to me was that somebody had created a series of background graphics and then put this fighting game in it. And that's it. That was your $2.99. That's what it bought. There was nothing else in it. The story is so unrelated to what the action is. Nothing to do with ninjas anyway. I don't even know why it's called Ninja Rabbits. It might just called Fighting Rabbit for the difference it makes.
He's not a ninja. He's dressed in like a karate.
Yeah. It's just, I think ninja just attracts people to things. He isn't dressed like a ninja. He doesn't look like a ninja. There's nothing ninja about it. There's no music. There's maybe Japanese-looking mountains, but they're just mountains in the background. And so that's it. This game is wander, fight slowly, wander slowly. It's boring. It's dreary. From that title screen, which had that decent version of the rabbit, although it did look psychotic, everything else was crappy, slow, and looked like it was from 1983 in the interface. And then when you get to that ploddy rabbit adventure, who's going to want to persist with it? After you've got to the 9th screen and the 56th enemy that you'd probably be able to fight with, if you're still alive by then, you won't care. You won't care. You'll be wanting that rabbit to get caught in a trap so that it just slowly bleeds to death and nobody comes to save it. You'll want that to... I mean, I don't want that to happen to any animal. It's horribly cruel. But in this instance, this giant rabbit is so slow anyway. It's obviously not well. So I think just put him out of his misery. Just be done with it. Wring its neck or whatever you do with rabbits. I don't know. I've never killed a rabbit knowingly, apart from driving over one once. And I didn't mean to do that as far as I'm aware. So I didn't enjoy playing this. The Sean Connery music wasn't particularly exciting. It was lively, I guess, but it didn't suit this. The sound effects were sparse and uninteresting. This looked exactly the same on the Amiga as well, the other platforms. I don't remember it, nor do I ever want to see it again. 50% I felt was maybe they gave it that for the animation on the rabbit, which was all right, I suppose. Everything else was crap and really boring. So what about you? I think that's boring is the word.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there should be something darkly amusing about beating up burly badgers and other creatures. Those badgers are really burly. And someone really took time to animate that rabbit. I mean, there's a lot of frames of animation there. They've taken time on that. Just a shame they never spent any time on the game, because it's another dull piece of budget rubbish. It sees you traipsing from left to right and dropping down holes to progress to the factory of some description. The combat's rubbish. The pace is sluggish. It's never a good combo. Never. Like you've rightly said, and I've noted here, your Sega Yojimbo's out. It's probably about on budget by now, or you probably got it on a copy. Just get that and play that again. And even if you've beaten it, play it again, because you're going to have more fun with that than this. Even at £3, this is a crap thing.
Yeah.
I did like the animation on the rabbit, though.
Yeah, it's good.
It's massively over animated, but and it says the game's called Ninja Rabbits. That's plural.
Yeah. Maybe you fight rabbits later. I never came across any. I was just mainly badger men.
Yeah, loads of burly badger men.
Yeah, the badgers. Attack of the Badgers.
Yeah, Badgers of War.
Yeah.
There you go. Ninja Rabbits. Not very good at all. I wouldn't have given it 50%. Nowhere near.
No, it's like Fighting Warrior, but with rabbits in, and that was boring, wasn't it?
Yeah, Fighting Warrior. That's a good pull. That's a very good pull. That's because that's what this is. Yeah, that's pretty much the same game. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good one. Rubbish. Let's move on. And our last game of the month. Our last game of July 91, and it's a big one. This is Wrath of the Demon. It's time for us all to face it, the Wrath of the Demon. And this was a big game, $10.99, 76% it got here, but this was a big game on the Amiga.
It was huge, yeah.
Let's just put that into context. It's on the Amiga, this was a real standout in terms of visuals and presentation for the time. Although my memories of the presentation are one thing, my memories of playing it was a different thing.
Yeah, exactly. Way too hard. Too hard on the Amiga.
A bit like Shadow of the Beast.
Yeah, a bit of a
Shadow of the Beast game in a lot of ways. Okay, so I thought it was all trousers, no package, if you know what I mean.
I do.
But anyway, it's a gargantuan Amiga game. So it pushed many of the Amiga's fancy chips very hard. And it's been converted and ported and squeezed into the C64.
It has.
Okay, so how's this all turned out? It was released by ReadySoft, their only game on the C64, according to Lemon. It was coded by Steve Douglas, visuals and title screen by Jorge Freitas, and the musicians here are David Whittaker and Steve Douglas. Like ReadySoft, and apart from Mr. Whittaker, it's the only thing from Steve and Jorge on the C64. This is it. Like I said, $10.99 on tape, $15.99 I think on disc. And for a game such as this, there's a story. Let me read you the story behind Wrath of the Demon. The wizard Anthrax. Anthrax? Really? Okay. The wizard Anthrax lit the last candle, completing the circle around him. 13 flames burning above 13 waxen heads, flickered in an unfelt wind. What's an unfelt wind?
Not 100% sure.
How can it be wind if you can't feel it? Anyway, a plume of coloured smoke rising from each to form a churning cloud in midair. Anthrax lifted his arms into the cloud and began to mutter an ancient spell, causing the smoke to swirl wildly, spitting forth flashes of light that filled the room with an evil energy. As the wizard continued his incantation, an image began to materialise in the raging storm above, an evil, twisted image, not that of a human, but of a demon long thought dead. The demon spoke like thunder, booming loudly in the wizard's ears. Who disturbs the demon's sleep? What creature thinks himself so powerful as to risk the demon's fury? Anthrax tried to scream over the torment building in the room. It is I, Anthrax, court wizard to his majesty the king, who summons you to perform my bidding. The words were almost lost in the rushing wind. I command you to destroy the king and make his realm mine. The demon laughed, the sound of thunder exploding over a mountain range. Kill the king I shall, and capture his domain I will, but not for you, insignificant worm. Lightning erupted from the circling cloud, striking the wizard and reducing his body to a smouldering pile of ash.
Oh.
The cloud began to grow, spilling from the tower's windows, flowing up into the sky. It spread its tendrils, blotting out the sun to make the land as dark as death. An evil rain poured down upon the earth and set the ground afire. Weird. Spreading from dirt to rocks, rocks to trees, trees to man. The demon's minions leapt from each flame, springing forth as hideous monsters to devastate the inhabitants of the doomed kingdom. In an instant, the entire realm, as far as the eye could see, was burning. The smoke from 100,000 dying souls rising up, lost in the blowing winds. As quickly as it had begun, the deadly storm receded into the castle that had witnessed its birth. Dark. The once prosperous kingdom lay ruined, nothing left alive but a single bird, forgotten in the demon's blind wrath. Months turned to years, years to decades, and the memory of the ruined kingdom was lost like dust on the wind. All that remained was a lone castle, the seat of power from where a king once ruled. After a time, men wandered into the wasteland and a new kingdom arose, ruled by another king. Just another one. All the while, the demon continued his sleep, waiting as he recovered the energy he had spent. The land was his now, and the demon kept a watchful eye on these new inhabitants as they populated the land. I thought he was asleep. Within a few generations, the kingdom had grown as mighty as the one that had stood many years before, and as it grew, so did the uneasiness of the demon's sleep, till finally the evil one sensed the time had come to once again wreak destruction. In the hollow of a tree, a good fairy awoke from a terrible nightmare. In her dream, she had seen a vast horde of pillaging monsters moving across the land like an unstoppable plague. The face of a powerful demon reached the recesses of her mind, lingering long after the nightmare was over. Fearing the dream a premonition of real danger, the fairy began preparing magical potions and spells that might defend the realm against such an attack. The king must be warned, she thought, and someone must find the demon and destroy it. Even as the fairy worked, the deadly hand of the demon reached out from the castle, delivering one of its minions to entrap the fairy and keep her captive until the demon could rise. As the fairy was being captured, she sent out a mental plea for help to the king, that some brave warrior might be sent to rescue her. The king received the message and did as the good fairy requested, calling upon his most trusted messenger to relay a command to the honoured knight the king had selected. The messenger sped into town with only one thought in mind, to deliver the royal scroll he carried. The demon was watching, though, and again released one of its monsters to kill the messenger before he could complete the mission. The flying monster appeared above the roofs of the town and found the messenger running along a road. Nearby, a chance visitor strolled along the road in search of lodging for the night. Noticing a strange shadow pass along the ground, the stranger glanced up to see the demon's minion fly past overhead. That thing had blood in its eyes and death in its heart, he thought. I must see what evil it might do. I'll go to the pub. I go to the pub. The stranger ran down an alley and stopped in the safety of the shadows at a corner between two buildings. He crept back as the messenger came running, chased by the flying monster. Too late to intervene, this would-be hero could only watch as the monster ripped at the other man's throat, leaving him dead in the centre of the road. In the messenger's hand, the stranger found the royal scroll depicting the kingdom's plight. Here, your quest begins. After travelling to the palace, the king instructs you to ride forth and defend the realm. Why didn't you take the note to the knight? I mean, he's in there. He's in that town. But anyway, the king promises you the hand of the princess in marriage, should you succeed in your mission. Even now, the evil horde is crossing the land and will try to end your journey. The king calls out as you prepare to leave. Only you can save my kingdom from the horde. Only you can deliver us from the grasp of the demon. Okay. And so you gallop towards the horizon where a black evil cloud has begun to spread across the darkening sky. Go. Now, in the original Amiga version of this, the part in the town where the messenger is killed, and you find the scroll and head to see the king, that's all shown in a very nice and well animated cutscene. Yeah, that's all there if you remember. That's all great. All of that is gone here. Gone. Just gone. So all we get for our intro here is the ReadySoft logo. There's a nicely drawn image of the demon holding a snow globe with a fairy in it and our hero's head frowning at it. The weird picture that is. There's some nice music though, a C64 version of the music from the Amiga. And I do like it. The Amiga, I mean, they're different. The Amiga music has that Amiga sound, which you can just listen to it. But I like the way the SID version sounds as well. I think it's a It's a good
Yeah,
rendition.
it's
Of it.
loud.
It's pretty good.
It's a good version, yeah.
It's good, yeah. Anyway, that's all we get. Pressing fire kicks off the loading. So I played this both on cartridge and on disc, off a disc version to check the loading, because there's the game this size is a multi-load. It takes up 2 sides of a disc. Now, so I'm going to talk about the game first of all. So I'm going to put the aesthetics of the game until I've gone through all the sections. All right, so we'll come to them in a bit. When the loading stops, we get our first level, which is a left to right horse riding thing. We talked about this because there was a demo of this a few months back, wasn't there? And you must avoid taking damage from the various enemies that fly at you and the rocks that festoon the floor. You sit astride your horse, riding at pace, and you can press fire to punch the oncoming flying demons. You can press up to make you jump over the bloody rocks along the floor. You can also press down because sometimes it's not rocks on the floor, it's handy potions. And if you bend down, you can pick them up if you pass them, if you time it right. You can also reposition your horse on screen by going left and right, although you'll just move it all the way to the left as soon as you start, because why would you be anywhere else on the screen at this point? So I don't understand, just put you at the left. Because the level is fast. The objects come at you at pace, and you only have a split second to recognize the object and try to do the appropriate action. This meant that I was usually jumping over potions because anything on the floor took time to pass what it was. So it was just safer to jump, ensuring I survived. The UI on the screen, and in fact on every screen, it's got like his face. I think it's supposed to be your face in the top left corner, or it's a demon's face. I don't know. And there are 12 marks around it. As you take a hit, they're red to start off with. As you take a hit, these turn to yellow. When you've been hit 12 times, you die. That's it, really. That's it. As noted, you can pick up potions, and these are shield, zap, and health. Now, in the instructions, which I had for this, it states to use F1, 2, and 3 for these. That did work. That did nothing. But there's a crack, though, that this version told you how to use the spells. And so what you do is you hold fire and push the joystick in the opposite direction that you are facing. So generally you're facing to the right, so hold fire and push left. It kind of freezes the game. It pauses the game, and the border of the screen changes color. You can push up to select through the potion. So you push up and it'll be green. Then it turns, so your green is blue for a shield, green for health, and yellow for a zap. Okay. And then when it's on that color, you push fire and it uses them. So shield gives you a shield and you stops taking health. Green puts your health back up, and zap destroys anything on screen. And that's it. Okay. So if you also take loads of hits and you get knocked off the horse, you go flying. We said this back when we did the demo as well. It's very funny. You go, they're really flying off the screen. That's quite amusing. If you make it past through the horse riding level, we get more loading, and the next scene sees us fighting 2 goblins. Just straight into this scene. There's problems, and I'll come to them in a bit. You got basic fight moves at this point, so the game changes from this horse riding game to this sort of fighting game, and you've got you're always facing to the right. You've got kind of like the Ninja Rabbits, really. So you can walk left and right for walking backwards and forwards. If you've got 3 attack moves pretty much, which is sort of fire and sort of right, upright or downright to do a high attack, mid attack, and low attack. You can also press up and down to do a jump, and if you press up to do a jump and down to duck, you can do a sort of forward jump as well if you press to the top right, or back if you do top left. And you can roll as well. I think can you roll at this point? I don't know if you can. No, you can just duck. But if you press up and fire, you can do a jumping attack as well. And if you crouch and press fire, then you can do a crouching attack. So there's 2 goblins. One of them will attack you with a sword, comes walking towards you, and you've got to knock them back. And the other one stays to the right of the screen and throws rocks at you, either at your head or your knees. You have to either duck these rocks or jump over, while also trying to sort out the goblin that's fighting you as well. There's no health bar for the goblin. You just have to keep hitting it and knocking it back and back and back until you finally kill it, and then they both blow up in a yellow puff of smoke. If you do that, then there's a potion to pick up, which again, like in that Ninja Rabbit, is really awkward to pick up. And then when you pick that up, it sort of kicks in the next level. Okay. And on this level, you're in a cave, or actually not in a cave, you're in a tree, and you're fighting against like a large dragon-like creature. Combat moves here are the same as before, but the fight is different because it's a big dragon and they'll kick you and try to bite you. So you need to use your jumping and high attacks a lot more. The high attacks don't work with the goblin because it's too high to hit it. If you beat the dragon, we get into some caves to explore. Now, I say explore. This amounts to little more than walking ages to the left to find a key and avoiding things sprouting up from the ground and some objects to jump over and some to duck under. You can roll at this point as well. And then you walk ages to the right, and then it inextricably stops, and we're having a fight with another creature, which is kind of Minotaur type thing. So again, controls are the same. Like I said, in the walking section, left and right for walk, up to jump, typical controls. You can just roll. That's the only different thing about it. If you beat the Minotaur, then you're into a swamp, and it just changes. You're into a swamp with a big green, hairy Neanderthal type creature. And then beating that leads to a fight with a winged gargoyle outside a castle entrance, which is the spooky castle where the demon is, I'm presuming. If you beat that, then you're into the final scene, and this final scene goes on for ages. You wander about a samey, but so it's these kind of grey castle walls behind you, and there's doors in the foreground which you can go through, which takes you to different coloured castle sections. So instead of it'll go to a pink coloured castle, or green, or blue, or red. It's really weird. And you're looking for keys and a power up that will lead you. And once you've got those, you can sort of wander off, and you finally get through the castle. And you face off against this big demon, and he's quite big, and he takes up a lot of the screen. And he's on the right, and he's firing firebolts at you, and you can duck or jump over them. It's not too hard. And when he's not shooting, you hold down fire to charge up your magic, and you fire magic at him. And if you do enough, then his head disappears, and then you get an image of you walking off with the princess in your arms.
Yay!
No, it's not the fairy, princess. Okay,
Aww.
So and that's Wrath of the Demon, right? That's it.
It is.
That's the game. So the good stuff, all right. The graphics are very good for the most part. Well, there's some issues. It's probably the single best thing about the game in total. The enemies are also pretty decent. They're not obviously not a patch on the 16-bit versions that they're never going to be, but the various goblins, dragons, gargoyles, and the other big creatures that you fight, they show for good level of fidelity and character in their animations. Although I did think that are they better than Barbarian 2? We saw some years back that was similar in style. They are. I mean, is it? I don't know. There's comparisons to be done. They're quite good.
Yeah,
but,
they are good.
The backgrounds, I thought the backgrounds are pretty well drawn as well. The single screen stuff, the fight with the goblins and the gargoyle in particular, they're very well sort of drawn. Some nice shading, good dithering, lots of good dithering. I like the sort of rock shading on the rocks and stuff. So that's it. The interior of the caves and the castle, they're also good. Although the weird colouring on the castle is off-putting. I think that looks a bit cheap and horrible. I didn't really like that. And there's parallax scrolling all over the shop in this. There's loads and loads of layers of parallax scrolling. So, if you like parallax scrolling, then poof, this is the game for you. And that horse section is just, it's parallax city. This music, the music's also good throughout. There's some good atmospheric tunes. And, the pace of this is okay, but apart from in the caves, I'll say pace, but it keeps things ticking along. The music's fine. And they suit the on-screen action. So in those aspects, it's a solid. In those aspects, what they've done, it's a solid and respectable scaling down of the original into the C64 in those bits that are here.
Yeah.
However, the game has issues. So in both the version I played and watching YouTube videos as well, there are loads of glitches as this goes on graphically.
There are
bloody loads. God knows, weird scrolling issues and, raster splits and glitches and weirdness and stuff like that. Considering the volume of parallax, as I said, it's odd that it gets so bad. I don't know whether, it's like make the first few levels look great because probably most people won't get past them. The other weird thing about this game is that it's pretty easy to complete because it never sends you back to the beginning. You just do each level until you do it. So you just keep progressing, which is an odd process, but okay, fair enough. I mean, it's quite nice, I suppose. So, it's a bit odd. It gets worse as you go on. I mean, the interior of the castle is a real mess of glitches and graphical weirdness and some of the monsters and stuff that's going on. And when you fight with a demon, the impact of your shots when it hits the demon go all glitchy and weird. It looks really poor and really
strange.
Yeah. I don't think this was properly finished, if I'm honest. I think there's some either that or, I mean, it might be the cracks. I don't know. There might be some glitches in the cracks of this game. It could be whatever, but I don't know. But that's what it is. But the game's not broken. You can play it. You can complete it. That's fine. But for me, that's where the biggest issue lies. It's not a good game.
No.
So it's dull, it's boring, and it's repetitive. And all that graphical finery cannot hide that fact. I mean, this was the same with the Amiga version. But the thing with the Amiga version, you had elements that kind of made you a little bit less harsh on it. It was a big thing. So, there was lots of stuff going on. There were cutscenes, introductory elements to each section, like the whole sequence with the king at the beginning, and you get the scrolling text telling you what's going on. There's the goblins who sneak up on you, and you get like a still of them. The entrance to the tree after you kill the goblins. The fact that halfway through the demon kidnaps the princess, and the fairy appears to tell you this. The link to the Minotaur. Then you find yourself in a swamp. Then to the castle. All this is missing in the C64 version. All of it. So what you get is a series of vignettes that tell no story and do not hold together in any way. You just get a series of scenes to play through. I don't know. So I was wondering why I was suddenly holding the princess at the end, because there's nothing in the game I played that tells you this. Because it's like, why is the princess in the castle where the demon was? I thought she was back with the king. It feels like what the problem is. It's like so much of the connective tissue that holds the game and narrative together has been jettisoned in order to fit it all on two sides of a disc. And I do wonder if this was a sort of logistical reason for this. Maybe, more discs, more costs. I imagine this wasn't a cheap C64 game. It took 10 months. C64 games weren't selling that much at this point. So it may have been a case of, we've got a disc, cram what you can on it and go from there. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, it could possibly was that we can't fit the cutscenes in tough, just get rid. We can't have another disc because that's going to put the duplication costs up even further.
Yeah.
We're never going to recoup this. So what it means is that the game's crippled and it makes no sense because you stumble from scene to scene with no real grasp of what you are doing, where you are, or what you're supposed to be up to. The scene in the caves gives no indication as to which way to head to get the key. If you head right, God help you, because you'll just wander for ages. And these are all issues that they've just taken from Shadow of the Beast. We said all this about Shadow of the Beast without thinking, how do we make this better? Because they've not done that in any way. This may have taken 10 months to make. I bet very little of those months were spent actually playing this game or letting anyone else play it. Because if they had, they would have realised that this was all a very drab and dreary husk of a thing sat beneath some very fine clothes. Now, I can see why people like this because it looks great, but I think there are better looking games than this on the system that also manage, couple those great visuals with being an enjoyable game. So it's not impossible to have, that's the thing. There's very little wrath here and more boredom and drudgery. But I guess that dullness of the demon wouldn't have been as good a title. The odd thing here is that they remembered to include the game, which they have, but then didn't realise that the game wasn't very good. And in cutting out all the interesting stuff, the narrative, the story, the thing that, you get a game like this, and it's like, we're going to fight this monster. You go, well, why am I doing it? It needs those. There's a reason they're in the Amiga version.
Yeah.
And it's connecting tissue, like I said. They just left the boring husk of the rubbish for all to see. Don't play it. I can't recommend this in any way, shape, or form. Go look at the Amiga version because it looks pretty nice still, nice cutscenes and things like that. But playing this, no, it's not very good, and it don't play very well. So no, arse of the demon. I'm really disappointed in this. Didn't like it at all. What did you think?
Probably. I remember really being excited for this on the Amiga. I remember buying it.
It was a big deal on the Amiga.
It was. I mean, it was graphically. It was all going on, wasn't it? And if you were off the back of Shadow of the Beast, your expectations for Amiga games graphics were set quite high at that point. And so something that came along that kind of looked a lot like it and sort of felt a bit like it, well, you were going to go for it. Now, I'd never seen the C64 version. I'd obviously played the demo off the cover disc that we spoke about some time ago, but I'd never played the C64 version, as the rest of it. But the Amiga version suffered from a key problem, that it was really difficult, overly difficult, like stupidly difficult. And like Shadow of the Beast 2, it kind of puts you off after a while because you're just banging your head against the wall. It has all the same pretty stuff, and the C64 version's no different. That first level is ridiculously punishing in the way that it's relentless.
Yeah.
And it's and it's a chore to try and get past. Eventually you'll do it, but it's a real chore. It reminded me of that. Do you remember when we looked at Escape from Singe's Castle? Do you remember the level where you've got to go down the raging rapids?
Oh, the rapids.
Yeah, this is another version of that. It's a game where you've just got to jump at the right time. The punching in this was sluggishly slow. The timing was always off so that you'd miss more than you'd punch because you have to sort of press the punch button 2 seconds before it appears. It's really weird. Your timing of jumping over the things and reaching down to pick up the extra bits and bobs, it's all a bit thankless. Now, graphically, it's amazing. I mean, this is really top-notch stuff on the C64. Yeah, the parallax is a bit, in that particular instance, it's quite, the lines of parallax are quite clear, but it still looks pretty amazing. The horse is well animated, the characters, it's nicely animated. It's just, the game is just dull. And that level is particularly punishing. When you get to the next level after that, the background graphics in the game are extraordinary, the detail in the animations, but there's nothing else to it. Add to that the weird little glitches that pop up now and again. And the sad thing there is that you end up with something that isn't quite living up to the visuals. The music and the sounds, everything that's all great. The visuals really good, but the game is punishing and boring. Later they cheekily changed the background colors of the levels to different colors So you're walking through the exact same backgrounds, just that suddenly it goes purple, and it's just cheap. So I guess they got so far, like you said, with the graphics, so far with everything. What there is really beautiful to look at for the C64. Some really nice pixel painting and graphics. It's beautiful detail. It's nice to see a C64 game like that, but there's no game in it. Wandering around, hacking at monsters. When you get to the final which I looked at on a YouTube video, you get to the final thing, you hack it a couple of times, his head falls off, and then you're carrying your princess off into the sun from a blocky back shot. That's not nice. It's underwhelming in terms of everything except its graphics and its sound. And that's clearly what they were trying to sell. They were like, well, there's no game in here. It's just wandering around doing very little. But you know what? It looks pretty and you can have a really good time doing that. You're not going to. And the Amiga one suffered from the exact same problem. It was all smoke and mirrors, really. It just lots of pretty detail, but nothing into the game. And so, like the Shadow of the Beast 2, actually, that it was based on, the Shadow of the Beast, there's not lots to them when they up the ante on the graphics. They're just forgetting to put the game design in. And in this particular one, it's nice to see C64 show off a much more varied color palette on the levels. That was all it had. And the nice music. Other than that, nothing else. No, I couldn't get behind that at all. And it's expensive for what it is. So it wouldn't have done great business on the C64, I don't think. But there you go. I thought it was really boring and dull.
Yeah. It needs the story. It needs the thing. It needs the wraparound bits.
Well, especially after all that story and stuff at the beginning, you think, well, all that bigging up, and you get that.
Yeah.
When you first see it, you're like, wow, that's, this is loud and the graphics are amazing. When you get into it, you're like, horsey go jump. Horsey go jump. And then when you fly off, I got carried off by one of those little creatures as well at one point. You're always flying off that horse, either forwards or backwards. It's like, just stop doing that. It's cheap.
I mean,
stupid.
I think we said it when we played the demo, but it reminded me of that beginning of that Hillsfar game. Do you remember Hillsfar?
Yeah, it's a lot like that, actually, yeah.
It's exactly the same, but there you go. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's it. Wrath the Demon. Not much wrath. Just not. Oh, no. It earned my wrath. Yeah, well, that's about it. So that's it. That is it for July. And that's it for this week in terms of games. What did we look at? We looked at Death Knights of Krynn, which we were both pretty impressed with, I think. It's safe to say.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah, World Championship Soccer, which was...
weird.
Yeah, weird and pointless.
Late.
Yeah, Ninja Rabbits, weird and pointless.
Boring. Stupidly boring.
Boring. Yeah, and in fact, both of these games are walk left to right, boring combat games, aren't they?
Yeah.
Ninja Rabbits and Wrath the Demon.
There's only so many times you can punch a flying bat and be satisfied with that.
Yeah, true. And I've tried.
You have.
I have, yeah. So I amuse myself sometimes. And there we go. So that's it for this week. There were a lot of games that came out on budget in this episode, this issue. Okay. APB at $2.99.
Okay,
it's all right. Needed an arrow or a map. Mercenary at $2.99.
No, there's a few people that would be happy with that.
There's a lot of game there for £3, but not for us. Leadstorm at $3.99.
It's not bad for that. We like that.
Yeah, it's all right. SDI for $2.99.
That weird arcade.
Yeah, Sega arcade one.
Yeah.
It's a weird space shooter thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the pick of the bunch here is Armalite at $3.99.
That's a bargain for £4, that.
Yeah, it really is. Tracksuit Manager for £3. That's not bad as well.
You like that kind of thing?
The Running Man at £4.
That's not worth 4p.
It's not. Really not. There's a double bill of crap Arnie stuff in this week. There's Defenders of the Earth at £3.
Ah, there they are. Masters of Magic. Spells and
I don't remember that being very good.
No.
Frostbite, £3.
Don't remember that.
It's quite well. It's what's his face, a Nick Jones one, isn't it? I think.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's the guy who did Equinox and all those kind of things.
Yeah,
one of those.
Yeah.
And finally, Red Heat for £3.
Oh, that burly punch outs in a sauna.
What more could you ask for?
Hundreds of topless men punching it out topless
in a sauna. Speaking of burly men, let's move to the crapverts.
Okay.
There's the first one.
Oh, look at that. So it's...
This is Warzone, Graham. It's a war zone.
So it's obviously a bodybuilder, isn't it? It's a bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
But it's a body you like. It's not quite Arnie. It's just AN bodybuilder with an Arnie-like head and Arnie-like hair from Commando, holding an imperceptible weapon, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Is it a rocket launcher? Is it a flamethrower? Is it a sniper rifle? Is it all things to all men?
Why would you need a sniper, whatever you call those, a target thing? What do they call
on
that?
A flamethrower.
A scope on a flamethrower. I mean, do you need that? It's kind of
and it's feeding bullets into it, but where are they coming out of?
Yeah. He's just obviously, I mean, that ain't going to last long either. He's got what? He's got about maybe 50 rounds there. That's cozy 1 second of bullet fire there.
He's wearing a bullet bracelet as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be burly, and he's got a stringer on, hasn't he? He's gone to Under Armour and got his skimpy stringer from the gym, so he's just stepped out of the gym and gone on a bullet crazy. Helicopters are in there, of course. I mean, that part of it looks all right. The Warzone logo, just no. No. And then, the token.
Why is there a pencil behind it? Or a pen?
Yeah.
Is that a pen?
Is that a pen? It's like a big pen. Maybe they left it there when they drew it. And there's obviously some kind of gravel on it, and then they've drop shadowed the image. It's like, just don't use drop shadow like that.
Oh, they have, haven't they? Yeah.
Of course they have. I mean, this is core design. I like the fact that it's got the Visa and the Access logo in the old left-hand corner for no reason whatsoever. Just there. Just there.
Just there, in case you want
we accept Access and Visa. I'm just letting you know.
See, the thing is, the way he's placed in the image, he's massive in the sky, and there's a helicopter flying past him, which he's much bigger than. I'm almost hoping that he's the final boss, just a god in the sky that you fight. That would make this game quite interesting.
Do you think that the left side of his face was drawn by the same guy that drew the right side of his face? Because it looks like that's drawn by two different people.
No, it wouldn't. And also, as well, that gun's not going to fit under his arm because there's not enough space between his the side of his muscly pecs and his massive bicep.
Yeah, I mean, he is roided out of the room, isn't he? Look at him. I mean, goodness me, you can't get that big unless you are on the roid, unless you are totally going. He's got the Dynabol or the Wistrol, whichever he's been injected into to get his pump on, and then he's gone out there. And bullets as well. I don't know what caliber bullets they're meant to be, but that's obviously someone that doesn't understand how bullets work.
I don't know what he's firing them from. Anyway,
where are they going? They're going into the machine gun, but there's nowhere for them to come out.
He's just ingesting them, I think. I don't know.
It is rubbish. Oh dear, Warzone. There must be an Amiga on that.
I think it is. I don't know if it's like, it looks like
a
Commando thing. But carrying on the burl.
What is going on with this? There's so much going on that screen. It's crazy.
I don't know. This is Mercs.
It says, need help? Call the gold phone for hints and tips. You need that to try and ring up and go, can you help me make heads or tails of the advertising for your game?
Yeah, I love so there's text, before we get to it, there's text in sort of cutout bits across this. It goes, land in enemy territory, break through tank line, neutralize special tank unit, Scorpion, penetrate mountain pass, smash enemy supply line, destroy enemy HQ, rescue president, go get him. Like, what? Yeah,
I mean, why would someone leave those labels like that? It's really weird labeling, isn't it? Like they've got a Dymo and they've been labeling.
I don't know. Why is that sort of Chinese guy or whatever he sort of thing doing magic tricks?
Yeah, who is that? It's like Low Pans appeared. What's he doing? He's doing an impersonation of a snake with a towel on its head. I don't know what he's doing. They're in a boat. Obviously, explosions going off all over the place. I'm not sure why he was flamethrowing off a dirigible, which is a bad idea. That's going to pop that thing, and they're going to sink.
But the face on that guy with the flamethrower, it's just funny.
He's going, hey! He's doing that. And his outerwear is inexplicable from the top upwards, from his top. It's like, what is that? I don't know. Did he make that himself? That's I don't know. He's just got a scarf and he's just wrapped it around himself in a kind of to reveal his burl, his pec burl and his muscular burl. And this guy behind him has just gone full topless, which seems, them bullets when they come out, firstly, you're firing a flamethrower point blank, and that's going to be hot. That's going to burn his skin. The other guy is firing his machine gun. They get red hot. You can't be topless with those things. That's really dangerous. You're going to get badly
Have you noticed
burned.
as well that the handle, the sort of the butt of the machine gun it's completely off skew. It's not at the right angle. It's
not
shifted
a real
to the
machine
right
gun.
No, but it's because it's bent at the butt of the gun.
He's bought an AK-47, but he bought it from Aldi there.
Temu.
It's the Temu version.
From Temu gun.
You're not kidding. Look at it.
What's Lopan doing tricks for at the bottom?
I don't know.
What he's doing.
I mean, looking at that guy with the blue scarf wrapped around his muscular frame, it looks to me like he's got a microphone on. Is he singing? He's like got one of those little headset mics on. He's like that's why he's got his mouth open. He's going it's like hitting the notes.
It could very well be.
Very strange looking thing. And he's also got, I noticed on his belt, he's got what looks like a little collection of Rubik cubes, which is nice. I mean, he probably do get bored waiting around.
It's such a bad advert. What were they thinking?
I know, and it's a good game, Mercs, in the arcade as well. That's not doing it any favours to that. This is
a month of Burl, because the final one was for the game we looked at.
Oh, goodness me, this.
This is extreme. I mean, that logo is beyond belief. But
someone got the Chrome plug-in for Christmas.
They really did. And then chromed the chicken legs and the bicep man and the head and the gun.
They've chromed everything, and then they've just put like they've gone mad on the little glint on everything, so to give it that extra sparkly chrome effect. I mean, that's highly polished. Why would you spend all that time polishing your robot chicken legs for that kind of shine? I don't need to do that. And why has he got the no legs but the body of a wasp?
Yeah,
underneath?
Do you think he can? I mean, he can't reach all those parts to polish them. So someone else has polished them for him.
That's a pro polished job as well. That will take a good while. You need, you're going to need 2 coats at least of wax on that.
Yeah, he's got his own fluffer. Kind of
he has. Well, I don't get why. I mean, when he's in the gym bodybuilding, because he's a bodybuilder again, he's going to stick out, isn't he? He's going to have to, isn't he? Because I mean, he's got his advantage. He's got a rocket pack on his back as well. That's what I don't understand here, because he's like Darth Vader's evil brother, isn't it? It's like his muscular brother. It's bodybuilding Vader here, because he's got a Darth Vader's shiny helmet, which sounds horrible when you think about it. But he's got that. And then he's got his weapon makes no sense again, of course, because he's got, I don't know what that is. Everyone's got weapons that don't exist in these things, not even proper replicas of anything. And then he's got these super shiny legs, hasn't he? And you notice that the legs themselves, they're not hydraulic. So even though they've got kind of leg extensions, somebody must have to come along, loosen that bolt, shorten his feet leg, and then tighten them up again. So that if he needs to go higher or lower, he can't self-do that. Someone's got to come along and adjust his leg length, because he's got like a rack, like a rack and pinion. So it's not like there's hydraulics in there. He is just at that height because somebody decided that his legs are going to be that long.
And why does he feel the need to, flex his bicep at us?
I don't know. At some point, there was a horrific injury and he lost his legs. And for reasons that nobody can explain, they first off attached his lower half to a wasp shell and then glued that to some chicken legs, robot chicken legs. And then somehow he was so ashamed of that he said, well, I'm just going to dress as Darth Vader from here on in. I
do like adverts sort of thing where you can hear in our voices the sort of exasperation of what they were aiming for. I get that this is in the game, but I don't understand why I don't understand the design of this in any way, shape or form. I can't. It makes no sense to me.
Knowing what films prompted this, what films led him to this, I'm wondering what version of Tron he watched where that happened. Because I don't remember. I watched Tron actually recently, and I'm pretty certain there was no bodybuilding Darth Vaders in it. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this was more like a flyer for an 80s sort of gay nightclub. It looks like a night that somebody would go to. If you took all the gaming stuff on there, extreme, and it's just like, the bodybuilder ripped guy, hard house and all that. Straight up that street, that is, would probably go with that. Yeah. But it's not. It is. He's very burly. Another bodybuilder, isn't it? Another roided up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Burly. This is the month of burly crap hurts.
But at some point, he has to. Those legs have to squat down, and he has to do a dump. And where that comes from, and maybe it comes out that giant tube, I don't know. But it is. Nobody's going to want to see that when it happens.
I think
oh, Greg's having a dump. Look away! Don't watch him.
It comes out as a spray in that thing that's sticking on his back. It just goes up into the atmosphere.
Oh, that's so gross. That's so gross. Just make sure you have to be careful what you fed him.
When it's a particularly heavy one sort of thing, it looks like an umbrella.
Oh, that's so gross. But no wonder they did that to him. No wonder he's got.
That's why he wears his helmet.
That's why they've shielded it with a wasp's shell. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how he always keeps his, his lovely bronze sheen to his skin as well.
So gross. So horribly gross. Yeah. So it's not great, and that's 3 bad crap verts, and that was also the box art, I think, for that extreme as well. Believe it or not.
It was. Yeah. Bloody rubbish.
Terrible.
Anyway.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's go through the charts. Let's get through these. This is from CMVG at the time. Countdown from 10. In at number 10 is Kickoff from Anco. Weird. In at number 9 is Quattro Racers, Codemasters. Up to number 8 is Outrun. Multimix 1 Golf is in at number 7.
Whatever that is.
Scooby and Scrappy Doo are in at 6. CJ's Elephant Antics down to number 5. Double Dragon is down to 4. Paperboy holding strong at 3. Dragon Ninja is in at 2. And Magic Land Dizzy straight in at remains at number 1.
Wow, look at that. Crazy. That Paperboy people love it on the 64. I never did.
I don't get it. Just going down from 11. Euro Boss is at 11. Boss of Euro, I don't know. Spitting Image is at number 12. Afterburner is at 13. Quattro Adventures at 14. License to Kill down to 15. Fantasy World Dizzy at 16. License to Kill was alright, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, I think. Bigfoot at 17. DT's Olympic Challenge 18. Yeah. Cave Mania down to 19. And Quick Snacks at 20.
Okay,
here we go. Just to say, coming up next month, we've got the following. There's quite a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's quite a lot of games coming. Just these are in score order. So we've got Turbocharge.
Okay.
That's a gold medal. I've seen one of them for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
RBI 2.
Okay,
whatever that is. Keys to Maramon.
Right.
I don't know what that is. Logical. I reckon Logical's another puzzler.
It sounds like it.
Pang, which is the arcade conversion. That's quite good, I think, to remember. Man United Europe.
Exciting.
That's just the worst address. It's at UK. Yohinga Khan's World Championship Squash.
Okay.
Millennium Warrior.
Sounds good.
Switchblade.
Right, okay.
Beverly Hills Cats.
Oh, God, okay.
Okay, Mercs. We've seen the crap bit, now we get the game. F1 GP Circuits.
Okay.
England Championship Special. Could be football.
Right. Yeah, most likely, or cricket.
Multiplayer Soccer Manager.
Oh, that sounds thrilling.
That might be tricky to review, so we'll have to check that one out, see if it's actually possible for us to do it properly. And finally, Betrayal.
Okay, wherever that is.
Wherever that is, who knows. And that's it. That's July done. It is Easter next weekend. So it'll be a week or two before we actually get to. We're not gonna have a normal episode out next week.
No.
For the Easter week, we're gonna have something else. So it might be a couple of weeks before we get to the August lot. So we'll release something.
Stay with us.
It'll just be we're just taking a bit of a break from these games and doing something a bit different. We will keep that to ourselves as to what that is, but I'm sure you'll find out. And so August will come in good time, but it will be different next week. And that's it. That's July. We are well over halfway through the year now of 1991. We continue apace. Graham, you got anything you wish to add or say on any of that lot?
Well, a bit of an odd July, wasn't it? I quite liked Exile. I don't remember anything else really being super great. So Exile was the BBC one, wasn't it, that kind of moved to the C64 a bit too late. Security Alert was okay, but the graphics on some of those games were lacking, and that's the presentation that let them down. God knows when it came to the Hero Quest and its brown turdiness. Don't want to think about that. Yeah. Scooby was, it could have been anything. There was a couple of good puzzlers in there, weren't there? Gem-X and the Power was all right, I suppose, and Gem-X probably better of those two, really.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. And then, of course, we diving into the crap that is, when I say World Championship Soccer, this was an episode of 2 halves. Death Knights of Krynn, very good if you like that. World Championship Soccer, too expensive, but better than Ninja Rabbits and certainly better than anything else that we had. Wrath of the Demon, which is crazy when you think about it, but no, Wrath of the Demon, just a complete misfire, really, which is sad because obviously someone put a lot of effort into the graphics and that. But here we go. There still seems to be quite a lot of games coming out for the C64. So
There
we're
still
working our way
is,
through
yeah.
them. We're getting there.
We are getting there. And on that note, I think we should say our goodbyes probably and head off.
Aye. Yep.
Head off on our merry way. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Radding.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. We will see you again next week, but not with August. Be patient. That will come. Trust us. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zapped 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.